Chapter 184. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. The interior of the Taoist temple wasn't complicated. Pavilions and corridors could be seen at a glance. The moment Luocio stepped into the Taoist temple, the calling sound became clearer. He followed the sound and gradually walked into the depth of the Taoist temple. Here, Luocio was now in the back hall of the Taoist temple. Dozens of lamps hung down from a beam. The bluish lamps in the hall filled the place with warm light. 12 cattail hassocks were neatly placed on the ground, and in the middle was a stone statue of a man. The man carved into a stone statue was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. His beautiful beard hung down to his chest, and his eyebrows were long, almost reaching his face. He could be considered to have the demeanor of an immortal. He should be the ancestor of Yang Taizi's sect, the founder of Xian Xian Huan Jin Dao. Luocio looked at the stone statue. The calling sound was extremely strong here, as if it was alive. Suddenly, Luocio had a strange illusion that this stone statue would suddenly open its eyes. He felt that this stone statue gave him a strange and familiar feeling. Luocio suddenly walked forward and came under the stone statue. He stretched out his hand and gently knocked under the stone statue's seat. Then he held out his palm, with the center of his palm facing the stone statue's heart. At this moment, specks of golden photons that resembled starlight suddenly emerged from the heart of the stone statue. They slowly condensed and descended. They finally fell into Luocio's palm. When they completely condensed, they turned into a glittering gold and silver card. Gold and silver card. It was exactly the same as the black card issued by the club. What was more suspicious was that Luocio saw the mark of discount voucher on one side of the card. Gently pinching the gold and silver card, a stream of information flowed into Luocio's mind. But the information was in a mess, just like the pieces of a puzzle. Luocio frowned. Luocio found such a gold and silver card in the stone statue of Yang Taizi's ancestor. And judging from the strange aura of the card, Luocio could preliminarily confirm that it came from the club. Luocio first put away the gold and silver card, but he didn't leave. Instead, he reached out and grabbed the stone statue in front of him, slowly moving it. As his palm moved, the stone statue in front of him slowly moved to the side, making a soft, rumbling sound. Furthermore, one could gradually see that there was a square hole under the statue. It seemed to be a passage. The back of the hall was the end, and the rocks of the mountain were behind it. As for this passage, it seemed to lead into the mountain. Luocio glanced at the entrance and jumped in. Not long after, they reached a place where they could stand. It was only about 4 or 5 meters deep, and there was already a path ahead. Faintly, Luocio heard a slight sound coming from the path ahead. Actually, there was light here, and it was quite bright because there were lit lamps on both sides of the passageway at regular intervals. Boss Luo didn't believe that the oil lamps could be lit up after the tunnel was built. It took him about 2 minutes to reach the end of the tunnel. In the tunnel connected to the end of the tunnel, Luocio saw 1, 2, 3 for more than 10 kinds of little monsters. One of the little demons was the first to notice him. This little demon looked like a little girl around 5 or 6 years old. She wore a floral dress, but her eyes were bright red. She also had a pair of big, tender rabbit ears on her head. That's right, this little monster also had a small white tail that swayed behind it. A rabbit monster? Black Water spat out a mouthful of blood in the forest, panting and sitting under a big tree. She looked at the road nervously, but she didn't see anyone chasing after her, so she took a breath. Black Water touched the wound on her body, and her face was pinched together because of the pain. She trembled and loosened her palm, taking several deep breaths before standing up by holding the tree trunk. Black Water didn't continue to escape from the Taoist temple of Xian Xian Huan Jin sect, but bypassed the forest quickly, coming to the side of the mountain. She climbed into the deep valley along the rock wall, sliding into a rock crack in the steep cliff. After sliding into the crack, Black Water's legs turned into a snake's tail again, in exchange for the ability to pass through the rugged and narrow crack quickly. Not long after, Black Water could see the destination she wanted to reach. Jumping out of the crack at the end, Blackwater quickly fell to the ground. The moment she left the crack, she started to speak. "Kids, stand up and follow me to leave this place." Before she finished her words, the black snake who fell to the ground suddenly became frightened. She opened her mouth, revealing the 2 rows of white teeth in her mouth. At this moment, 4 sharp fangs grew out from the top and bottom of her mouth. Because at this moment, Blackwater Snake Monster saw one of the 2 people brought by Yang Taizi at this important place. The man. "Let them go." Blackwater's voice was full of anger and uneasiness. "Don't be nervous. I don't intend to hurt them." Luo Chio looked at Blackwater, who jumped down from a crack in the rock wall. He put his finger to his lips and made a gesture of silence. Only now did Blackwater notice something wrong. The man was sitting on a flight of stairs in the cave. As for the little monsters, not only did they not look frightened, they all gathered around the man. Each and every one of them had an obedient look on their faces. With the man as the center, they lay on the ground, and all of them looked like they were sleeping soundly. And at this moment, the man was holding one of them in his arms. That was the rabbit monster Ling Ling. As a monster, she was only about 15 years old, about 5 or 6 years old. She hadn't been able to control the transformation of the rabbit monster, so she still had the characteristics of a rabbit with a small tail. Ling Ling was very afraid of strangers. Except for herself and the other little monsters here, she didn't dare to get close to strange monsters, not to mention humans. However, in the eyes of the Blackwater, the little rabbit demon was enjoying lying in the man's arms. When the fur on her body was being stroked, she even revealed an intoxicated expression. Blackwater still didn't let down her vigilance. She glanced at the place where Luochio was sitting, where there were some books. Blackwater was stunned. One of them was opened in a man's hand. Blackwater couldn't help but frown. She had obtained these books in the past. They were fairy tale books used to tell stories to the little monsters. It seemed that Luochio saw the Blackwater snake monster's confusion. He gently closed the storybook in his hand and said softly, "They wanted me to tell them stories, so they gave me some pears at the beginning. I can't seem to refuse." Though he explained in this way, Luochio still ridiculed in his heart. Apart from money, the club really accepted all kinds of transaction fees. This pear was not enough for 1 second, right? Chapter 185. Geniuses remember love in 1 second divided by little. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Although this man didn't seem to have the intention to hurt these children, the one who injured her was also this man's companion. How could Blackwater relax so easily? Or rather, she was more afraid of him now. Those children were in his hands. "Let them go, I'll do whatever you want." Blackwater clenched her teeth and said something that surprised Luochio. Luochio put down the little rabbit demon in his arms. This little rabbit demon was asleep and was in a deep sleep. At this moment, it curled up on the ground. Its cute appearance made Luochio subconsciously reach out and tease the little rabbit demon's nose. Then, he stood up and walked 2 steps towards Blackwater. "They said that it was you who brought them out of the mountain 10 years ago. It was not easy for them to find this place to settle down," Luochio suddenly said. Blackwater's face was full of vigilance, but she suppressed her anger and didn't dare to disturb these quiet little monsters. "If it weren't for you humans cutting down the place where we live again and again, we wouldn't have come here at all. Again and again, you always deprive us of the place where we live," Luochio said indifferently. "With your ability, don't you have a way to protect your mountain forest from those people who only care about profits?" Blackwater sneered. "So what if I drove away a group of them? You said that they only care about profits. Even if there is one less in this world, there are countless more. Do you think that I didn't drive away enough? Those people went up the mountain with the logging license that they bought with money. Under the law of this country, it's open and above board. How can I take action? Once I take action, those hidden Taoist priests will come out one by one and kill us righteously. They can't wait for me to take action." Perhaps because of her agitation, it affected her injury. Blackwater spilled out a trace of blood from the corner of her mouth and said sadly, "This world is dominated by you humans. We monsters can drag out an ignoble existence if we abide by the law. But once we make a mistake and hurt humans, there will be your Taoist priest to protect us. But what about us? When we are oppressed, who will uphold justice for us? Just because this is your world, there is no place for us to live in? Luochio said indifferently, if it was the other way around and the world was dominated by you demons, can you guarantee that the situation of humans would be better than yours now? Blackwater snorted. The issue of race was like fire and water. She didn't have such an assumption in her heart. She looked at Luochio with resentment and said, anyway, you are the helper invited by that stinky Taoist. Of course, you're on his side. I'm not on Yang Taizi's side. Luochio shook his head. He's just my guest. He paid the price here, and his request was for you to be heavily injured. That's all. Otherwise, do you think you can safely leave from our sight? Blackwater sneered. Is that so? Does that mean that I can take that stinky Taoist life as long as I pay you enough? Of course, Luochio said softly, if you want us to serve you. But Blackwater didn't believe him completely. She had been a demon for hundreds of years. She had seen the changes of human dynasties, wars, and corpses everywhere. When humans were ferocious, they were much more ferocious than the cannibalism among demons. In a world dominated by humans, she had to understand what kind of creatures humans were. The more she understood, the more she found the complexity of human beings. After hundreds of years, Blackwater learned not only to judge a person's good or bad, but also to judge a whole generation. Love, go little, say W. Chu, look at the changes of this generation. Look at the time of this generation. Look at what it brought to the world. Human civilization was progressing, but the so-called changes were only for humans. However, from the green mountains and clear waters to the stone forest, in just 100 years, it seemed to consume the life of this world. In this recent generation, all she saw was greed. Therefore, she couldn't believe what this young man said from the bottom of her heart. But if this guy intended to seek something from her, it seemed that he only needed to use the cubs of those demons as a bargaining chip, then she had to give in. Blackwater couldn't figure out what this person was thinking. Why don't you consider what you want to order? Luochio added a sentence. Then he ignored Blackwater and wandered in the cave. This cave was not made by Blackwater, but something that existed in itself. The passage leading to here was under the stone statue of the ancestor of Xianhuanjin sect. Thinking of the ancestor's stone statue, as a disciple, he dared not move it easily. Blackwater could find this place, so she must have intended to do something to this stone statue, such as smashing it. She must have found the arrival of Yang Taizi earlier, so she hurriedly hid those cubs here and found it. The cave inside the mountain was actually very large. On the walls of the cave, there was a kind of bead that could emit a faint light at a certain distance. And there was also a kind of unknown grass that could emit fluorescent light. One of the walls was wet, bringing water vapor. There were some gaps here, so there was air. It was like a small, closed ecosystem. Luochio walked up along the stairs where those cubs were sleeping. On the top was a platform, which was opened up from the rocks. It seemed to be a place for living. But when he walked into this smaller stone room, he found it was just a simple cave. There was basically nothing inside, only a square stone that seemed to be used as a bed. There was also a skeleton on the stone. Even though Blackwater found this place, she didn't seem to have touched anything here. Luochio could see some bamboo slips beside the skeleton. The moment he picked them up, the bamboo slips were broken and scattered in his hand. Luochio shook his head. It seemed that he couldn't get anything from these bamboo slips. This skeleton might belong to the ancestor of Xianhuanjin sect, or a disciple of a certain generation. Luochio didn't touch the skeleton, but just glanced at it silently. Looking at the cave in the mountain, looking at the skeleton hidden here, it was unknown whether it was hundreds or thousands of years ago when someone walked into this place. Maybe he wanted to find the truth of immortality, so he sat in seclusion. But after sitting, he turned into a skeleton. Luochio slowly walked out of this stone room. It seemed that there was nothing left to see. He walked down the stairs, but found that Blackwater had come to the bottom of the stairs. Blackwater didn't come up, but some of the cubs, including the little rabbit monster, had woken up. Blackwater took off her clothes, leaning on the stairs. Beside her, Some of them looked like females. The female little demon cub was licking Blackwater's body at this moment. To be exact, they were licking Blackwater's wounds gently. The little demon cub's tongue was like a small fur broom. It was slowly moving back and forth between Blackwater's shoulder and waist. It was extremely agile. Luaccio heard that the saliva of dogs seemed to be able to disinfect and sterilize. Well, it seemed that among these cubs, there was a little demon whose original body was a dog. Sparkling and translucent saliva connected into threads. Near the ghastly wound, it reflected the fluorescent light in the cave, sparkling brightly. As for the terrible wound, it seemed to have healed a little. Although the wound was still very eye-catching, it was left on Blackwater's body. Seeing this scene, Luaccio naturally understood that this might be a method of healing. But looking at the strange blush on Blackwater's face and the soft moans from her trembling lips, Boss Luo still didn't understand. What was the purpose of healing her to make her look like she was having an orgasm? Perhaps the saliva of the baby demon had touched the wound. Blackwater's whole body suddenly tightened. Her legs were exposed from the split of her dress. At this moment, her calves were intertwined, and her ankles and toes were straightened, slightly raised, and turned into a wonderful curve. At the same time, she raised her head and slowly exhaled, looking tired. She opened her eyes while panting slightly, and happened to meet Boss Luo's eyes on the stairs. Chapter 186. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second /small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Licking the wound seemed to give more vitality to the injured part and speed up the healing. But obviously, it was not realistic to recover immediately. Blackwater put on the sleeves of this imperial robe, which looked like a Han costume. After folding up the undone robe and tying the belt, he completely covered the wounds on his body before turning around. She started to walk up the stairs. After Luo saw the scene of Blackwater healing, he retreated into the stone room behind. The monster didn't seem to care about this. For example, when the little butterfly monster just changed, she was very calm. Maybe monsters didn't have a good sense of dressing? Blackwater's face turned pale after the red clouds faded away. As for the tiredness, it had never left her. If I want to kill Yang Taizi, what's the price? Blackwater suddenly asked in front of Luaccio. It was probably because he had carefully considered the problem of his situation while he was recuperating. Cards with patterns appeared beside Blackwater one after another. They twined and turned slowly. The 350-year-old Blackwater was digesting the information contained in these cards at a very fast speed. Finally, Blackwater's face showed a touch of astonishment. The legend turned out to be true. Blackwater looked at Luaccio up and down with amazement, lost in thought. Luaccio's patience seemed to reach the maximum when the customer was choosing. Since he became the boss of the club, Luaccio found that he had more fun. For example, he could watch the customer's appearance when making a choice in front of the customer. The appearance at this time was the most vivid and touching. After a long time, Blackwater sighed slowly, smiling bitterly. No wonder you said Yang Taizi's request was to injure me severely. After that, you won't stand on his side. Luaccio said indifferently, because we just stand on the customer's side. Blackwater suddenly sneered. On the one hand, you help Yang Taizi injure me. On the other hand, you offer me an olive branch. You want to do business with both sides? What a good plan. Love, go little, say W. Luaccio didn't intend to refute Blackwater's ridicule. On the one hand, the club didn't refuse anyone, which was quite immoral. On the other hand, Blackwater didn't realize that she had been seeking something subconsciously when she was in trouble. We just stand on the customer's side. Luaccio said for the second time. I have a test. Blackwater suddenly said. If you're not in a hurry, please wait a moment. Luaccio gave a start, then the card with patterns returned to his hand and disappeared. Blackwater walked down the stairs in front of him. Luaccio watched Blackwater to walk to the little monsters. After removing their demonic features, the oldest of these little demons looked no more than 6 or 7 years old, while the youngest looked no more than 3 or 4 years old. One by one, they gathered around. The small demons clustered around Blackwater, their eyes revealing their deep dependence on him. Blackwater sat down, holding the youngest monster in her arms. Only then did Luochio see a gentle smile on the cold face of the Blackwater snake monster. She was like a mother. Blackwater caressed the small demon in his arms and said something softly. The little monster's pink face also showed a smile. The Taoist temple was occupied by Blackwater for 10 years. During these 10 years, she took care of these little monsters. 10 years was like a day. These little monsters came from different species, so they were not Blackwater's children. Where were the parents of these little monsters? Luochio didn't see them here. He knew he wouldn't see the parents of these little monsters. Otherwise, there wouldn't be only Blackwater here. Sister Blackwater, are we leaving this place? The little rabbit demon sitting beside Blackwater raised its head at this moment. Its watery red eyes were blinking, and its short rabbit tail was wagging. Blackwater patted Lingling's face, asking, "Don't you want to leave here?" Lingling lowered her head. No. Lingling made a lot of new friends on the mountain. They haven't been enlightened, but they all like Lingling. Lingling doesn't want to leave them. Blackwater said bitterly, "This place doesn't belong to us." Another little monster beside Blackwater suddenly said, "Sister Blackwater, are we going home? Can we go back to see my parents?" The chubby little demon had a pink pig nose. It was probably a wild boar that had turned into a demon. Blackwater patted its head, saying softly, "Let's not go home yet. Let's go somewhere else first." The little monster jumped on Blackwater. "I haven't seen my parents for a long time. Sister Blackwater, I miss them. Can you take me back to see them?" "Me too." Sister Blackwater. "Sister Blackwater, I wanted to draw Grandpa when I was drawing yesterday, but I couldn't. I'm going to forget what Grandpa looks like." One after another, small beasts circled around him. Looking at their eager eyes, Blackwater suddenly smiled and said, "When you grow up, you'll be able to see them. Didn't I tell you before? But we haven't grown up after 10 years. When can we grow up?" Blackwater said softly, "If you do homework every day and absorb primordial energy, you'll grow up quickly." "Who said you haven't grown up yet?" "Lingling is taller than last year, and her hair is longer too. And you, Piggy, you're 1 kilogram heavier this year. And Afu, you don't drool when you sleep." She talked about the growth of the little monsters and finally said softly, "These are the proof of growing up. Well, you haven't done your homework today, have you?" After saying that, Blackwater's face suddenly turned serious. "Do you now want to go back to see your parents and grandparents?" "What?" The little monsters immediately scrambled away from Blackwater. Actually, they just walked a little further away and then sat down neatly on the ground. After sitting down, these little monsters had different postures. Some were lying down, and all closed their eyes. Blackwater took a deep breath as she watched the little monsters absorbing primordial energy. She suddenly blew a breath of air at the small demons. The breath was cyan and gold, and it slowly spread out, wrapping around these little monsters. The greenish-gold mist seemed to flow into the bodies of the little demons as they breathed. Share your primordial energy with them. Luochio came down the stairs and came to Blackwater's side. He looked at Blackwater's face that became paler in the next 10 years. Blackwater said indifferently, "They're too young, and they need at least 50 years to be able to protect themselves by refining primordial energy. In this place, I can refine them for 30 years. Luochio was silent for a while. "Why did you choose the Taoist mountain in the beginning? There's still many mountains and forests that no one has set foot in." Blackwater said, "Don't imagine the world of the monster race to be so good. We need to survive, and so do other monster races. In the mountains and forests where the monster race can survive, there are already natives living there. If we go there, it's tantamount to invading their homes. A mountain can only provide so much primordial energy. These children need it, but don't other children need it? Do you want me to take these children to fight with other monster races? Even if I win, it will only cause another group of children to lose their original homes." Finally, he found an experienced monster. Boss Luo was interested in learning more about the monster race circle. "As far as I know, Many monster races will choose to live in human society. In this case, won't there be any problem with primordial energy living in the city? Blackwater sneered. No problem? If there's no problem, why should we occupy this mountain? If the monsters in the city are adults, it's fine. If they are cubs, it's difficult for them to refine enough primordial energy. They can only take it from their parents. But this kind of taking is equivalent to overdrawing the life of their parents. There are indeed some monsters who yearn for the prosperity of the human world, but more of them are helpless. We can also reproduce, but if the reproduction exceeds the capacity of the home, some of the monsters have to leave. Otherwise, what awaits us is probably cannibalism. Blackwater pointed at one of the little monsters. That is Zhu. His parents were wild boar monsters. 10 years ago, where I lived, the number of monsters had far exceeded the limit of the primordial energy that the mountain forest could provide. Zhu parents died in the hands of Tiger Monster. Blackwater pointed again. She's called Ling Ling. This is Afu. This is Wheatley. Their parents were all killed in internal strife that year. I took them to the edge of the mountain forest to settle down slightly. But unfortunately, we met human beings who were cutting down the mountain forest. That year, I took them out of their original home and went to different places. We were all driven away by the monsters in other places. Who do you think caused this? If the mountain forest was still there and the river was clear, how could we not have a home? Speaking of this, Blackwater suddenly became a little agitated. She pointed at Luaccio and said, "Tell me, how many monsters like us are there in this world? How many of them are struggling at death's door in the city, exchanging their lives for the short lives of their children? Since we have intelligence, why do we have to go on the road of extinction? 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, this world had clear water and green mountains. But now to what extent has it been corrupted by you humans? Tell me." Her voice contained a trace of sadness. Zhu asked me. Ling Ling asked me. Afu asked me. They all asked me. Day by day, tell me, what should I do to tell them that their parents are long gone, and that they will live in this cruel world in the future? I have no choice. Chapter 187. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Hearing Blackwater's words, Luo kept silent. This place was originally very quiet, but now it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. As for those little demon cubs, it seemed that they were not alarmed because of the green-gold mist. Luo didn't open his mouth until Blackwater put down his hand, and the trace of excitement faded away. "Can you calm down now?" Blackwater let out a sigh. Suddenly, she forced a smile and said, "You're silent. I know I can't buy it. If I can exchange everything I have for the future of the monster race, I think I'm more important than the entire monster race." Unexpectedly, the boss of the club said at this time, "Customer, what you want can be bought from us." "What?" Blackwater's lips twitched, and his face was filled with disbelief. "Really? Really?" Luaccio said indifferently. "If the guest request is for us to stand on the side of the demon race, there is no problem at all. The price you bid is all you have, isn't it?" Blackwater nodded subconsciously. Luaccio said expressionlessly, "In that case, it will be enough for us to stand on the side of the demons for about 10 seconds. 10 seconds? Blackwater frowned. She suddenly felt like she was being toyed with. How long was 10 seconds? In just a few breaths of time? If this person were to stand there in a daze for a while, it would be over soon. What could he do in such a short span of 10 seconds? The so-called standing on the side. The price of standing on the side for 10 seconds would be everything he had, from his life to his soul. What kind of joke was this? Sure enough, legend has it that your place is deeper than the abyss and darker than darkness. Love go little, say, Blackwater sneered. "I don't want to make such a deal." Luaccio said softly, "You're a guest, so the initiative is naturally in your hands. We won't force you." Luaccio condensed an unmarked black card in his hand and slowly floated in front of Blackwater. "If necessary, you can come to us through it." Blackwater hesitated for a moment and finally put away the black card. She looked at Luaccio, gritted her teeth, and said, I want to recover from my injuries. If I use my lifespan to trade, how long will it take? Luaccio quickly replied, if it's just to recover to the state before the injury, 10 years. Blackwater frowned and said, if I recover on my own, it would take me about 5 years. You actually asked for 10 years. Sir, you might be able to recover on your own after 5 years. Luaccio smiled and said, but with the help of us, you'll be able to recover immediately. The difference of 5 years is right here. Blackwater gritted his teeth and said, then let's make a deal. She wouldn't make this deal unless she got it. Now that she was seriously injured, she might be found by that stinky Taoist, young Taizi, in a short time, not to mention recovering on her own. Of course, she had considered letting the club get rid of young Taizi, but she thought that the price would be higher, and this was even the worst deal. If she recovered, it would be easy to deal with young Taizi. She didn't need to pay a higher price for something that she could achieve. Along with the opening of the parchment scroll, the pain caused by the huge wound on Blackwater's body quickly disappeared. Her skin even recovered to its original smooth appearance. But at the same time, she also felt that the vitality in her body had decreased a lot. Those vital things that maintained her life. That was to say, her lifespan was reduced so easily. But Blackwater didn't show any gratitude. Instead, she sarcastically said, that stinky Taoist paid a price to let you injure me, and I also used my lifespan to heal my injury. The result is that the problem between me and that stinky Taoist hasn't been solved, but you easily made 2 deals. You really stand on the customer's side. Well, sometimes I also complain about my own shop. Boss Luo said indifferently, but can I ask you a question? Next, are you going to continue the unfinished feud with Yang Taizi? Blackwater sneered. That stinky Taoist is not good at martial arts, but he's good at escaping. 10 years ago, he could escape from me even though he was seriously injured, but 10 years later it's hard to say. If he escapes and finds you to deal with me again, I'm afraid he won't just injure me severely. Do you think I'll confront him? I'll leave here and disappear in front of that stinky Taoist. If he can't find me, he won't look for you at the risk of huge losses. Moreover, even if he gets back the Taoist temple, he won't have a good time. After all, 10 years have passed. Tell him to behave himself. Be careful of some uninvited guests at night. And, more importantly, I don't want you to have any business now. Sure enough, women are more vengeful. Well, female, Luaccio didn't say anything, but nodded in front of Blackwater, leaving the cave by the original way. Before returning to the Taoist temple, Luaccio saw Yang Taizi was still lying on the ground and didn't want to wake up, so he squatted down. Yang Taizi's apprentice Jean-Air blinked his eyes with confusion. Luaccio said indifferently, Taoist, if there's nothing else, I'll take the transaction fee. Of course, it's okay if you pretend you don't wake up. Yang Taizi's eyelids suddenly moved, then he opened his eyes slowly. The old Taoist estimated that if he didn't practice Taoism, he could be a movie king. Well, Boss Luo, how long have I been in a coma? Yang Taizi rubbed his forehead and sat up. Sorry. Jean-Air, the snake monster has escaped. Quickly go into the temple and see if there's anything broken. Jean-Air nodded, thinking his master's worry was right, so he hurriedly ran into the Taoist temple. Yang Taizi looked at Luaccio, saying with a bit of awe, Boss Luo, please be gentle. Luaccio didn't intend to expose him, but suddenly put his hand on the old Taoist's chest, pulling it out as if he was grabbing something. Yang Taizi's face slightly changed, his hair turned as white as snow in an instant, and a lot of wrinkles appeared on his face. 50 years of lifespan. Yang Taizi's heart was bleeding, but he could only force a smile. This time, I'm really grateful for your help. Obviously, he suffered a great loss, but he could still smile. Luaccio couldn't help admiring Yang Taizi's calmness. So Boss Luo also responded hypocritically, you're too polite. Although our temple is remote, it's also a quiet place. Boss Luo, how about staying here for a few days? Yang Taizi continued. Luaccio shook his head. He glanced at Yu Yi, and the servant girl walked to his side obediently. At the same time, Luaccio said, return silently, and the 2 people disappeared from Yang Taizi's sight. Yang Taizi waited for a moment silently, until he was sure they had left. Then he suddenly jumped up, shaking his white hair like a madman, and immediately shouted towards the Taoist temple, "Jean Eyre, quickly go to the pit in my room and check if the 1,000-year-old ginseng that I hid is still there. Without ginseng, I'm going to die. 50 years. His vitality was greatly damaged. It was too cruel. Quickly nourish it. You brought a cup of water?" They were already in the club. Putting down the cup, the servant girl held the tray in her hands, saying softly, "It's a pity that Blackwater didn't choose to buy the 10 seconds." This was the conversation after they came back. Chapter 188. Genius 1. Second, remember love divided by, divided by little. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Jessica had been monitoring the house for 2 or 3 days. Love go little say, net. She found that this house was only occupied at night, and the 2 people who lived there didn't talk much, so there was no useful information. The listening device was installed in the shoe cabinet at the entrance, so the things that could be heard were limited. During these 2 or 3 days, Jessica had figured out the habits of this house, so she sneaked in at noon when there was no one around. The door lock of this ordinary house didn't stop Jessica. After gently closing the door, Jessica first checked the listening device that she had installed before. After confirming that there was no problem, she began to install more instruments in the house. The first place was naturally the room. The experienced policewoman finished the decoration of sub-editor Wren's room skillfully and checked for any useful clues before coming to Luacio's room. For Jessica, who had many years of experience, it was easy to see a person's character from the decoration of a room. For example, the woman's room had just been decorated. Clothes were placed everywhere, and the things on the table were more like a mass grave. As a woman, there was almost no cosmetics, and the only thing she had were skincare products. This was a woman who lived a very casual and reckless life. In addition, there was half a pack of women's cigarettes in the wardrobe. There were some traces of ashes on the edge of the window sill. This woman would hide in the room to smoke, and she was afraid of being caught. But she still hid in the room to smoke, so it was possible that she had a rebellious mentality. The source of this mentality should be the owner of the other room in the house, who was the son in this family. It was not beyond Jessica's expectation that this son's room, which could make a woman who looked terrible like Run Zyling afraid, was unusually tidy. There wasn't any strange smell. Instead, there was a special fragrance. It wasn't the smell of cologne that men would use, but more like perfume that women would use. The quilt was folded neatly. There was hardly any dust on the table, by the window, and even under the bed. Even the clothes and socks were folded before being put away. There were no pornographic magazines. The computer was not encrypted and could be opened at any time. There were no records of browsing bad websites. Most of them were discussion forums. There were very few comments. The computer was mostly filled with documentaries. There were no games, except for a large number of audio files. The entire desktop was the background of the system. There were only a few icons on the desktop: my computer, recycle bin, and my documents. Is this really the boys' room? For a moment, Jessica even had an illusion that the owner of this room might be gay. The silence in the room made Jessica feel like she had walked into a prison. No wonder women are so respectful. But she more or less understood that the woman in the opposite room didn't have a high status in this family. But for Jessica, it was a very difficult choice to install equipment in such a neat room. Everything in this room should have been cleaned frequently. In other words, the owner of the room knew everything in the room like the back of his hand. He could even feel where the room was. She had already interacted with Luacio. The simple contact made her feel that this boy was more difficult to deal with than his peers. Even when she was in this room, Jessica's feeling was especially strong. She even had a feeling that when she walked into this place, it was as if she was trapped in an abnormally monotonous prison. Everything here even brought her an indescribably enormous pressure. Subconsciously, she had a feeling of wanting to escape from this room, but she still had to finish her work. Under the bed was the best choice. But considering that the owner of this room was a freak who even cleaned under the bed, pass. Inside the main box of the computer, it's a F***king all-in-one computer. Ceiling. There's no ceiling. Pillow. The sound insulation in the cotton is too good. Pass. The top of the air conditioner. There's no air conditioner in this room. Isn't this guy afraid of heat? Not even a fan? Socket. No, it's easy to leave a prime mark. With this boy's meticulousness, he might be discovered. Pass. How could I be defeated by a room? Jessica suddenly sneered in self-mockery. She took a deep breath to calm herself down and opened the wardrobe. Since there was a risk of being discovered everywhere, she chose to put it in the pocket of her winter clothes. But once she opened the wardrobe, Jessica felt embarrassed. All the winter clothes were put into a vacuum bag. Are you kidding me? Did she have to vacuum pack the clothes in order to install a bug? More importantly, where was the vacuum machine used to pack the clothes? What's this? A rectangular box in the wardrobe attracted Jessica's attention. It was a musical instrument, a saxophone. Jessica stroked the instrument gently, her eyes fixed on the words engraved on it. She seemed to forget that she was still in the target's room. She just stared at it blankly, murmuring, "Yi, where are you?" "Master, are you going to see Misty Yi next?" Yi asked at this moment. Luaccio pondered for a while, saying, "Wait for me here. I'll go to offer the sacrifice first." Letting Yi stay in the lobby of the club temporarily, Luaccio went to the basement 3 floor of the club alone. But Luaccio didn't offer the sacrifice immediately. He gazed at this altar that made him feel omnipotent for a while before opening his mouth slowly. Inquiry: what's the essence of Blackwater's soul? Response: 100 years of your lifespan will be deducted if you want to buy this information. Do you want to buy it? Luaccio shook his head. The price of this information was so high that it surprised him. But apart from the surprise, he also felt relieved that Blackwater could change the club's position for 10 seconds, even though she had used everything as the transaction fee. It cost him 100 years of his lifespan just to know the essence of this soul. What kind of value did Blackwater's soul reach to get these 10 seconds? These 10 seconds may bring a brand new future to the monster race. Blackwater. Luaccio pondered for a while. He walked back and forth in front of the altar, slowly walking back and forth. Suddenly, Luaccio stopped. He spread out his palm, and a gold and silver card started to flow out from his palm little by little. This was what he found in the stone statue of the Taishan True Sect. Yi had told him about the club's black and white cards. Luaccio didn't think Yi was hiding anything. This thing existed in the stone statue for a longer time than Yi, so she shouldn't know about it. But this thing must be from the club, so the altar should know about it. But when Luaccio was about to ask about this strange gold and silver card, this weird and cold altar had a slight change. Chapter 189. Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second Divided by Small. Shoah Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. From the beginning, Luaccio never thought that this strange altar could move. The pitch-black substance that looked like water started to spread from the altar. However, it didn't spread too far. Luaccio didn't even feel the heavy feeling that the altar usually gave him. He just felt a kind of indescribable ease that began to spread all over his body. Luaccio subconsciously walked to the edge of the altar. This kind of floating time didn't take long, maybe only 1 or 2 minutes. It didn't even float high, about 1 meter. But at this moment, Luaccio found that the altar was connected to a pillar of the same size. At the same time, the gold and silver card in Luaccio's hand began to emit a stronger light than usual. Vaguely, this card seemed to want to break away from his hand. Luaccio frowned. He began to look at the altar and the pillar below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. What he found was that on this pillar, there were 7 grooves of the same size, even the size of the gold and silver card in his hand. Luaccio tried to put the gold and silver card in his hand into one of the grooves. After a while, the altar didn't continue to change. Specify the position. Luaccio frowned and began to try one by one. Finally, when the card in his hand fell into one of the grooves, a new change began to appear. First of all, the card in the groove began to become plump, and then it became like the material of the pillar, almost merging with the pillar. The 4th key inserted successfully. At the same time, a message flowed from the altar to Luaccio. Luaccio was stunned. This card is the key. The 4th key, what does it mean? The 4th key. What is it? The 4th key. What is the meaning of the 4th key? The fourth key. Luaccio stopped asking. It seemed that no matter how many times he asked, he would only get the answer of the fourth key in the end. Most importantly, regarding this golden and silver card, this so-called fourth key, there wasn't even a price to buy its information. The only answer was this is the fourth key, which couldn't even be considered an answer. Luaccio thought for a while. Just as he was about to pull out the card from the pillar, the altar slowly sank into the ground again, and the strange substance under his feet began to flow back in. But at this time, the altar had a completely new change, or rather, there was something that wasn't there before. It was above the altar about a foot high. At this moment, a sphere was slowly being born. Luaccio tried to swipe at the sphere, but his palm easily passed through it. It turned out that it was just an illusion. But this phantom is Earth? It shouldn't be wrong. This sphere was obviously showing the shape of the Earth, as well as the continent on it. But this Earth was completely different from the star chart of Earth he had seen before. The originally beautiful blue planet, at this moment, showed a gray color on the sphere projected by the altar. The gray replaced the blue part of the ocean, and all the continents showed brown. It felt like a photo when it was exposed to the sun. What does this Earth represent? Please insert more keys. Love go little say W chide. Luaccio tried to say this to the altar, but unexpectedly, the sphere projected gradually disappeared at this time. But from then on, the altar had an additional function of projecting this sphere, the meaning of which was unknown. Everything about the keys can't be obtained by paying my lifespan. Even the reason why the fourth key appeared in the stone statue didn't appear to be a payment option. Only after collecting more keys can I know the meaning behind the keys. Is this what it means? He had already left the third floor of the basement and walked slowly toward the lobby. Luaccio suddenly remembered a story about God and a stone. Could the omnipotent God create a stone that he couldn't move? It was as if everything he had just experienced could be put in place very well. The club that claimed to be able to sell everything had something that it couldn't sell to the boss. No, it's also possible that it just doesn't sell to me. If I'm a customer, can I buy information about the keys? Luaccio couldn't help but think in this direction. If this hypothesis was true, then the altar just didn't allow him to buy the keys. After all, he was the boss, not a customer. Originally, the club didn't say that the boss could buy anything he wanted from the club. It was just that for a long time, he could get information and so on by paying lifespan, which gave birth to the illusion that he could also buy anything. But if it's a customer, let's not talk about the possibility of knowing the existence of the key and choosing to buy the information. The problem of payment seems to be, originally, besides him, the boss, who else would be interested in this key? What the customer needed was what they desperately wanted. So, he could only wait for the next key to appear. Master, Luaccio, who had unconsciously returned to the lobby, heard the servant girl's call. The servant girl, who was far more proficient in observing facial expressions than him, seemed to feel something from the remaining doubts on Luaccio's face. Nothing. Luaccio smiled slightly. He sat in front of the counter, tapped his finger on the countertop, and suddenly said, "What's the takeout that Uncle Yi asked the hotel receptionist to help you order today?" Yi quickly replied, "For dinner, it should be noodles with soy sauce." Luaccio thought for a while, whispering, "Uncle Ye's hometown is in the capital city. When I was in Shaochun Martial Club, I could occasionally eat noodles with soy sauce made by Sister Shaochun. Well, come with me." Boss Luo suddenly pinched up his sleeves, walking toward the kitchen. "I should remember how to make it. Sister Blackwater, where are we going now?" Walking out of the steep mountain where the Taoist temple of Xian Xian Huanjin Dao was located, Blackwater was leading a group of children through the forest. Perhaps it was because they had walked too fast and too hurriedly. These little demon cubs quickly showed signs of fatigue. Blackwater couldn't bear it, so she had to find a secret place to rest first. A group of children were sitting in the hiding place while Blackwater was guarding outside. Little Rabbit Demon brought a bamboo flask to Blackwater's side. "Sister Blackwater, drink some water." "Good girl, Lingling." Among this group of little demons, the Little Rabbit Demon was the oldest and the most sensible one. Blackwater could not help but sigh. She stroked Ling Ling's head and said, "It's been hard on you all this time." Ling Ling shook her head. "No, compared to me, Sister Blackwater has been working the hardest." "I know." Looking at the little rabbit monster's lowered head. Although she didn't say anything, Blackwater already knew that Ling Ling actually knew everything. She was just silently playing the role of a big sister to these little monsters. Blackwater sighed secretly. "We have to get out of this forest before it gets dark. Otherwise, I don't know if that stinky bat will appear at night." Ling Ling tilted her head. "If it appears, it will go to the Taoist temple first. That stinky Taoist deserves it." Blackwater sneered. "That stinky bat has been following us since we left the mountain last time. It doesn't have good intentions. If not for the fact that it is no match for me, it wouldn't have been lurking nearby for the past 10 years. If it dares to come to the Taoist temple again, let fight with that stinky Taoist." Ling Ling's eyes brightened. "In that case, can we go back?" Blackwater shook her head. "That Taoist is good at escaping. If he escapes, we will be in danger. Anyway, we can't stay here anymore." Although she didn't know why they would be in a worse situation after the stinky Taoist escaped, in the little rabbit monster's heart, Sister Blackwater, who had been protecting her, must be right. However, Little Rabbit wanted to look around, revealing a blank expression. But where should we go? The world was so big, but there seemed to be no place for them to stay. Blackwater kept silent for a while, sighing slowly. "There is no other way. It seems that we have to beg that Lord." "That Lord?" Chapter 190. Genius 1, Second Remember Love, Go/Small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Ian was a little surprised by his physical recovery. The world he lived in was also a Jianghu. How could a person walk in Jianghu without being stabbed? He was very clear about this from the day he entered the industry. Ian, who had learned some medical knowledge, more or less knew how serious his previous injuries were. Not to mention a week. Even if he was given 3 weeks, he might not be able to recover to this extent. After washing his face in the bathroom, Yin, who was in a good mood, reached out and knocked on his face in the mirror. He chuckled and said, "It seems that your luck is good." With the improvement of his body, naturally came the increase of his appetite. But when he took a bite of the takeout from the front desk of the hotel, he stopped eating. That year, he had just graduated from school and was arranged to work in a place far away from his hometown. It could be said that he could not eat and sleep in peace. Only a bowl of jajang noodles made by Xiaochun Martial Arts School could often make him feel like he had a full meal. This taste not only stimulated his taste buds, but also evoked the memories hidden in his heart for a long time. Ian suddenly opened the door of the room and went to the front desk of the hotel. He looked at the boss and asked, "Boss, where did you buy the takeout for me?" The boss, who was in his 30s or 40s, was reading the newspaper with a cigarette in his mouth. When he heard the question, he looked up and said, "What's wrong?" "The noodle shop at the end of the street. Is it not delicious?" "How long has it been open?" "More than 10 years. The boss said casually, "If you don't like it, I'll ask them to make you a new one. Anyway, it's an old neighborhood. It's easy to talk to them." Ian shook his head and said that it was not necessary. Then he suddenly thought of something and asked, "By the way, boss, is there a letter for me today?" "No." The boss looked at the guest strangely. What era was it now? There were still people who accepted things like registered letters. Of course, he wouldn't ask. This hotel wasn't a legitimate place to begin with. Anyone could stay here as long as they paid, as long as they didn't cause any trouble. "If there is, please let me know." Ian returned to the room alone and sat at the table. He ate very slowly, taking a long time to chew each strand of noodles before swallowing. He swallowed the loneliness and hesitation here, swallowed the doubts and dangers of life, and swallowed the memories of happiness. It was undeniable that there was a very strong person in the world. No matter what kind of predicament and despair they were in, they would never lose hope in their hearts. This kind of person could even bring hope with them and face death without regret. Because even in the face of death, they had great courage and did not change their expressions, so they had an unusually firm will. No matter what he saw now or what he knew, Luochio felt that Yi Yin was such a person. Yi Yi was a very considerate maid. On one hand, she knew that her new master would definitely help her unconditionally, and on the other hand, she also knew that if Yi Yin was a target, he would probably be the type of customer that was the most difficult to recruit, even if such a customer had an exceptionally precious transaction item. However, she did not express any of this in front of Luochio. Master, King Kong's location has been found, but the goods collected by Michael Club here have not been found. King Kong is very careful. During this time, he just hid himself and searched for Mr. Ye's whereabouts. No need, I know where the goods are hidden, Luochio said indifferently. I went out of town and made some money. This information is not expensive. Luochio was not in a hurry. What Yi Yin needed now was only to recover from his injury. I'm relieved that you are here. Luochio looked at Yi and said softly. Then he looked at Tianzi, who had ordered before. Come back with me. I have something to ask you. How could Tianzi dare to say no? Since he was chased by Long Shiruo to the door of the club last time, he had not been able to talk to the boss. The master and servant quickly returned to the club. Knowing that he could not let the master speak first, Tianzi immediately said respectfully after Luochio sat down, Master, what do you want to ask me? Yes. Luochio nodded. Tell me about your sect. Also, is the stone statue enshrined in the back hall of the Xian Xian Huanzhen Dao Temple the founder of the temple? Master, how do you know? Tianzi was stunned, but quickly understood. It seemed that for the mysterious master of the club, it would be unreasonable if he did not know this. Our sect's founder is said to be a figure in the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors period. Tianzi started to recall the things when he was cultivating in the Xian Xian Huanzhen Dao Temple. According to the records of our sect, our founder was taught by a strange person when he was young and grasped the method of cultivation. Later, after several trials, he finally created the Xian Xian Huanzhen Dao Temple, which has been passed down to this day. Speaking of this, Tianzi had a complicated expression on his face. Although our sect is not famous among the numerous sects, it is one of the few sects with the longest history. Even though there are few people in our sect, I'm afraid it's unprecedented that there are only a master and a disciple left in our sect in modern times. He did not mention Qin Shuyu. It seemed that Tianzi had never regarded Qin Shuyu as a member of his sect. Luochio pondered for a moment, saying, the High Jade Emperor's Heart Seal Sutra has been passed down from one generation to the next. As its creator, don't you think that your ancestors are still around? Tianzi gave a start and then frowned. Tianzi's behavior was funny, but it was just to make the boss relax his vigilance. After joining the club, he had been beaten by Miss Servant Girl for several times, so he had become much more obedient. He said thoughtfully, Master, you think, if the bitch Yu Sanyang could cultivate the sutra successfully, then the founder couldn't fail, right? Isn't that the logic? Tianzi sighed. I also had this idea that year, but the founder really didn't exist anymore. According to the records of our sect, the founder passed away in a sitting posture under the witness of the 2nd-generation disciples. The stone statue enshrined in the Taoist temple was actually made by the later generations according to the founder's appearance when he passed away. Alas, it's really shameful. Since the founder, until my generation in the Xian Xian Huanzhen Dao Temple, only the bitch Yu Sanyang successfully touched the door of immortality. I didn't know when I was trapped for 500 years, but now it's even more impossible after seeing Yang Taizi's case. Instead, it was a disciple who successfully touched the essence of the sutra. Did Tianzi know the real identity of Yu Sanyang? Luochio thought for a while. I'm afraid Tianzi didn't know, or else he wouldn't just call her bitch. After a moment of silence, he said, What's the name of your founder? His real name wasn't recorded. Tianzi shook his head. As a disciple of the later generation, I only know that the founder's Taoist name is Xian Xian. Well, Luochio closed his eyes as if he was meditating. Tianzi didn't dare to disturb him, so he could only wait silently. Speaking of which, serving by the master's side really wasn't an easy task. Tianzi suddenly felt that Miss Servant Girl of the club was really powerful. He was afraid that he would irritate the boss if he was careless. But Miss Servant Girl just served him wholeheartedly. This was probably the difference. You go to prepare. Luochio suddenly opened his eyes and said, "There are guests coming. Yu Yi is not here, so you go and make some tea for her." Tei Yinzi nodded quickly. He was good at making tea. He was really an expert. The 500-year-old ghost floated in excitedly. But as soon as he entered the tea-making place, this expert of tea ceremony immediately stared blankly. What the hell were these candles? How could the tea made from a glass teapot have any taste? At least it should be a purple clay teapot. Where's the teapot? Where's the teacup? Tea. What the hell were these tea leaves? I want Longjing before Yuqian. Where's Bilyuakun from Dongting? Even Wui Rock tea. How could I bear it? As the owner of the club, why didn't he even have a good tea set? Damn it, there wasn't even running water. This servant girl was so unprofessional. And the well-prepared boss, Luo, also saw the new guests. For the club, they were new guests, but for Luochio, they were not complete strangers. Chapter 191. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. 3 years ago. Lyon, France. What? A new partner? Yes, a newcomer from China. This is his file. Take a good look at it. Besides, he'll arrive tomorrow. Pick him up at the airport and bring him here to report. Jessica had a frown to confront her boss. She asked, "Why do you want to arrange a new partner for me? I already have one." Old Jack is old. Her boss said indifferently. He applied for a clerical job 2 months ago, and it was just approved. You don't have a partner, but you'll be replaced soon. Although you're a newcomer, you obviously have the ability to guide newcomers. Jessica, this is also a test for you, unless you're not confident. Jessica glanced at her boss, pressing her hands on the table. She said without blinking, "I only hope this newcomer can persist for a week." "I hope so." Yin, 35 years old, born in China, with 10 years of experience as a domestic criminal police officer. In the airport, Jessica was searching for the newcomer's trace in the file at the exit. Jessica was very confident in her memory. Besides, searching for the target in the crowd was also a kind of exercise for her eyesight. Having said that, Jessica still felt a little awkward to instruct such a newcomer, because Yin was actually 8 years older than her in terms of age. There would be a generation gap between them. Besides, they came from different cultural perspectives, so it would be more difficult to get along with each other. Jessica had almost zero contact with the Eastern culture. She was even worried that the simple communication between them would be a problem. Even though they had to pass the test in Lyon, there were requirements in terms of language. Well, she found him. With her excellent eyesight, Jessica soon found the person she was looking for. He was simply wearing a long black trench coat. There was some stubble on his face, which made him look gloomy. Besides, he was carrying a small travel bag, which probably only contained 1 or 2 sets of clothes. When Jessica was about to raise the sign in her hand, she suddenly saw Yin change his walking position and hide behind a passenger in front of him. It seemed that he wanted to avoid her sight on purpose. This was a very common tracking technique. He seemed to be following someone. Out of curiosity, Jessica pressed the sign with Yi Yan's name on it. She wanted to see what this newcomer from the east was planning to do and who he was following. Soon, Jessica could almost identify the target that Yi Yan was following. It should be a young Caucasian man on the same flight as him. Just like that, Jessica didn't recognize Yi Yan. Instead, she followed behind Yi Yan while he followed the young white man, forming a strange, stalking relationship. While following him, Jessica was also secretly evaluating this newcomer. His tracking skills were not bad, but his vigilance was lacking. Soon, Ian followed the young man into a small alley. Jessica frowned. After waiting for a few seconds, she also passed by inadvertently. But when her peripheral vision turned to this small alley, she found that Yi Yin and the young white man were no longer in this alley. Jessica looked up subconsciously. Perhaps he had gone up the stairs outside the house. However, the moment she raised her head, she saw a figure falling down from above. Jessica stepped back instinctively. She fixed her eyes and found that it was Yi Yin. Had she been discovered? Before Jessica could say anything, the man in front of her did a beautiful flip and landed on the ground steadily. He didn't greet her, but approached her directly. Seeing Yi Yin suddenly clenching his fists, Jessica became vigilant instinctively. He attacked. It seemed to be a free fight routine. Jessica didn't have time to think about why Yi Yin suddenly attacked her. Perhaps it was because he found out that she was following him. She didn't reveal her identity originally. She also wanted to test the skills of this newcomer, so she quickly countered his moves. Unexpectedly, as if she met a ghost, Jessica only felt a huge force hit her. Her body flew backward and hit the wall fiercely. Looking at the strange posture of Yi Yan's hands and legs and feeling the huge force, Jessica faintly felt dizzy. She didn't know that the force that hit her came from a kind of kung fu called close body contact, which was extremely powerful. Jessica even had the feeling of vomiting. But immediately, Ian had reached out his hand and pinched her chin. Her jaw joint was dislocated at this moment, and she lost the ability to speak. It was very dangerous. Jessica stretched her hand to her waist instinctively, but this action didn't escape from Yi Yan's sight. Yi Yan pressed her arm against the wall faster than Jessica and took the opportunity to pull out her hidden gun from her waist, pointing it at her forehead. He said in fluent English, "Miss, you'd better not move. Can you just turn around?" Jessica could only bear this humiliation silently and turn around. At this moment, Yi Yan began to search her body and found Jessica's ID in her clothes quickly. Just when Jessica thought that Yi Yan would regret when he saw the ID, something incredible happened. Yi Yan just whistled casually. Sure enough, it's a police officer. "The hidden brother, you can come out now." Jessica, who felt that something was wrong, glanced at him. The so-called hidden brother was obviously the white young man that Yi Yan was following at the beginning. That young man shrugged and walked to Yi Yan without saying anything. He covered it with a handkerchief and took Jessica's gun from Yi Yan's hand, pointing it at Jessica again. Cold sweat started to appear on Jessica's back. The white young man said indifferently, "Although you're a beauty, it's a pity that I can't bear to part with you. My brother said that he was followed by you stinky policemen, but I didn't believe it. You just got off the plane. What bad luck." Looking at this white young man's action of wrapping the gun with the luggage bag, Jessica knew that she was in trouble. This white young man was going to kill her here. Isn't this Yi Yan? Did I see it wrongly? For the first time, Jessica started to doubt whether she remembered the appearance of Yi Yan that was pasted on the document wrongly. Jessica couldn't sit still and wait for death, so she calmed down unusually. But at this moment, Yi Yan suddenly grabbed the white man's arm and pressed it down. "Brother, if you do it here, we'll be in trouble later. And this is the headquarters of the Interpol. I don't want to hide for a period of time because of your happiness. I don't want to miss the taste of alcohol and women." The white young man frowned, seeming to agree with him. "Then what are you going to do?" Yi Yan suddenly smiled, stretching out his hand to pinch Jessica's carotid artery in her left wrist. In just a short time, Jessica completely lost consciousness. If something happens, this is a good shield, isn't it? I heard that foreigners are very particular about humanitarianism. "Ha, bro, your idea is good. I like it." The white young man laughed. "I haven't played with a policewoman before. Come, I'll take you to see my boss." Chapter 192. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 second/small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. When Jessica woke up, she found herself in a dark room. Her hands were tied to the chair, and her mouth was covered with a piece of cloth. Though she was frightened, she didn't panic. She was trying her best to escape from the danger. At this time, there were some noises coming from outside, and there were even a few gunshots. Someone was probably fighting outside. Jessica didn't know how long she had been in a coma. There was a gunfight outside. Maybe the people from the headquarters came to rescue her after finding out. While she was thinking, the door of the room suddenly opened. With her back against the light, Jessica saw the culprit who put her in this place. "Yi Yan," he whistled and sized Jessica up from head to toe. Suddenly, a small knife spun between his fingertips like a dancing butterfly. Then, it flew towards Jessica at lightning speed. There wasn't any pain when the knife cut her skin. Instead, the tightness of the rope disappeared. Jessica gave a start. The moment the rope was untied, she took action. She snatched the knife from Yi Yan's hand and brandished it. Yi Yan stepped back quickly. Jessica chased after him. Yi Yan suddenly raised his hands. "Calm down. calm down. It's all right now. If you don't believe me, you can have the knife and the gun. Then look outside. Ian even stretched out his gun to Jessica to show his sincerity. Jessica stared at Ian dubiously for a while. Then, she reached out her hand to grab the gun vigilantly. Soon, she turned and pointed the gun at Ian. From the beginning to the end, Ian raised his hands. He tilted his head and signaled Jessica to take a look at the situation outside the room. You better not play any tricks, Jessica said in a low voice. She moved to the door step by step. This should be a bar that was reconstructed from a basement. When she arrived at the entrance, Jessica was shocked to see several muscular men lying on the ground. What happened? Sorry, I didn't intend to involve you in this. But this is the leftover part of my previous work. Ian was looking for something on the bar counter. Well, here you go. In an instant, a small bag was thrown to Jessica. When she opened it, she saw her identity card, wallet, and gun from the headquarters that had been confiscated. Before I received the notice to report here, I was following a case of illegal antique smuggling in our country. I was informed that this case should be handed over to my former colleagues. But when I boarded the plane, I found someone who was related to this gang. Ian shrugged, so I pretended to be him. But I didn't expect you to be more hospitable than I thought. Sorry for following you all the way. You found me at the airport? Jessica gave a start. Ian nodded. He stretched out 2 fingers and pointed at his eyes. He said softly, do you know? When a person is looking for another person, there will be some slight changes in the pupil of his eyes. Besides, you once showed the joy of finding your target. You intended to raise the nameplate, but put it down quickly. Although there were many people who picked you up, such an action was very conspicuous. All of a sudden, Jessica felt a strong sense of shame. She turned around, trying to hide something instinctively. She started to check the appearance of these people on the ground. This guy, I've seen him on the wanted list. I didn't expect that he dared to hide here. Ian was drinking a bottle of brandy happily at the bar counter. He smiled. In our words, the more dangerous the place is, the safer it is. Jessica glanced at Ian silently, saying indifferently, everything here will be taken as evidence. You're destroying the evidence. Ian smiled. I haven't officially joined, so I shouldn't violate your rules. But you better deal with it. After all, it's inconvenient for me. Be careful. Jessica gave a start. A gangster who was supposed to be lying on the ground was pretending to be lying on the ground. At this moment, he stood up quietly and was about to shoot in the back. She didn't react in time. Then she saw Ian turn over from the counter and push Jessica away. Bang! At the same time, a gunshot was heard. At the same time, a cold light flew out. It was a knife that was thrown from Ian's hand. It accurately nailed the gangster's wrist that was holding the gun. The gangster groaned, and the gun fell on the ground. Jessica saw this and rushed forward, taking the chance to subdue the gangster and knock him unconscious. You, how are you? She quickly walked to Ian's side and helped him up. Ian's forehead was covered with sweat beads. He covered his waist with his fingers, but couldn't stop the blood from flowing out. I think I can still be saved. What's the number of the ambulance here? In the hospital, Jessica came to the ward angrily. Looking at Ian, who was staring blankly out of the window, she asked directly, why did you tell the headquarters that I saved you when you were caught? You should be the one to take credit for this. You'll be punished, won't you? Ian didn't turn back, but said in a low voice, being caught and almost becoming a hostage is a stain on my record. It's not good for my future. Besides, I haven't officially joined the army. Acting on my own will also leave a bad impression in the army. There are even a lot of procedural problems, which is more troublesome for me. So, since it's something that's not good for either of us, why do we have to confess, especially when the criminal has already been caught? But your perjury, I thought you more flexible. This incident was caused by my action on my own. It might even leave a bad record for you. So, it's not bad for you to be selfish. Ian turned around. It seemed that he was going to get off the bed. He covered the wound where the bullet was taken out, but you can also report it as it is. It seems that I have to go to the interview room again after lying in the hospital. What bad luck. You haven't recovered yet. Don't move. Jessica gritted her teeth. What do you want to do? I'll help you. Oh my God. You foreigners are so enthusiastic. You even helped me go to the toilet? I really learned something. Jessica didn't know what to say. She could only watch Ian holding the wall and walking slowly. Suddenly, she turned her head and said, "Thank you for saving me." "You're welcome. Just treat me to a cup of coffee when you're free." Ian turned his head and smiled. "Besides, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Ian from China. We'll be partners in the future. You said that no matter what I want, I can buy it here?" Jessica chuckled. She came out today just to buy some necessities. She was thinking about something on the way and came to this strange place unconsciously. She looked at everything in this place and also looked at this rather strange shop owner who pretended to be mysterious. Listening to the shop owner's confident tone, Jessica sneered. "Then I want a roast lamb from Luke Tour de Vin restaurant. You can at least show me if you can, right now." She actually wasted her time with this pretentious person. Jessica felt that she might have been under too much pressure during this period. "Roast lamb." The weird Mr. Clown suddenly nodded. Then he stretched out his hand on the table slowly. "It should be this customer." Jessica opened her mouth slightly. From nothing to something, the familiar smell of roast lamb spread in the air. She could even feel the heat of this roast lamb. This could prove that it was freshly roasted. Even the packaging on the outside was so familiar. It was the product of a small shop in the city where she lived. Jessica poked the roast lamb lightly with her finger. She stood up abruptly and pulled out a black pistol at lightning speed. She asked nervously, "What the hell are you?" She didn't think she was seeing an illusion, nor did she think that this was a magic trick. There was also the mysterious aura that was constantly emitting from this place, as well as the strange feeling that made her unable to calm down. She could only think of one thing. That was this place was dangerous, extremely dangerous. Chapter 193. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. She was drinking the same weird old man with afro hair, tight pants, and a plaid shirt, who looked like an American retro style of the 70s and 80s. It should be black tea. Jessica had thought of leaving this place immediately because it seemed that this place didn't intend to detain her. But she had stayed behind. Inconceivable. As long as she paid enough transaction fee, she could get anything she wanted. There were many legends in the West, many of which were stories about making deals with the devil. But she didn't expect to encounter such a magical thing in a foreign country. For a moment, Jessica thought that she was hypnotized. But she had also received a lot of anti-hypnosis training, which made her feel that she wasn't hypnotized. "I want to find a person. If I pay with my lifespan, how much do I have to pay?" Jessica tested. "If you're really so magical, you should know who I'm looking for." Who else could it be? This time, Luaccio didn't even need to pay extra lifespan to buy information from the altar. He could answer her easily. "I'll take you to the mister you're looking for in 1 month." He didn't say the name, but only mentioned the word Mr. to show his gender. At the same time, it also showed that he knew who Jessica was talking about. Life was too long. No one knew where the end was. Meaningless actions will only waste life. Humans tend to spend more time on boring and unprofitable things. If she could find the person in 1 month, Jessica felt that it was a good deal. "Okay, deal." Jessica nodded decisively. "But if you lied to me, I won't pretend that it didn't happen. The mister you're looking for is on the 3rd floor of this hotel, room 302. Jessica raised her head subconsciously. She saw a room whose curtains were completely closed on the 3rd floor. "He's here." She turned around, and her face was still full of shock, nervousness, and even fear. Because just a few seconds ago, she was still in a club, but in the blink of an eye, everything had changed dramatically. She was already on a street. The so-called owner had disappeared. No matter whether Yi Yin was in this hotel or not, this method of teleporting to another scene was enough to make Jessica unable to calm down for a long time. She subconsciously tried to recall the location of this magical store, but she couldn't remember clearly. When did she walk in? Before she walked in, she seemed to be in the supplies section of a supermarket. Who are you looking for? Who are you looking for? The hotel owner, who was reading the newspaper, felt someone come in. He put down the newspaper as he spoke, and then immediately changed his style. After the incident at the club, she started to think about it seriously. The most important thing was to confirm whether Yi Yin was here or not. Jessica glanced at the boss and put down a few $100 bills on the counter. I'm just looking for someone. Oh, whatever. The boss nodded. Just don't cause any trouble. Jessica had seen too many of such hotels. They were usually used to hide people. She sized up the boss and felt that there was no big problem. Then she walked up the stairs and soon arrived at the room 302. Jessica stopped at the side of the door and knocked on it. But the sound was very strange. 1 short, 2 long. For short, 3 long. In Morse code, the order was W-H-O. Her body was plastered against the wall. After waiting for a while, there seemed to be no sound, but Jessica, who was leaning against the wall, could faintly hear a slight sound in the room. She knocked on the door with the same method again and put one hand on her gun so that she could draw it out at any time. After waiting for a while, there was still no response. At this moment, the same rhythm of knocking came from the door. Jessica suppressed the sudden joy in her heart and continued to knock on the door in an orderly manner. "Jesus, I say Jessica." Click. The lock of the door made a sound, but it didn't open immediately. But Jessica couldn't control her impulse. She twisted the handle and pushed the door open. "Yi, you're really here." Jessica rushed to the front of Yi Yin and threw herself into his arms, hugging him tightly. "Thank God, you're really here." Yi Yin frowned at first, then let go of the man's hands. He sat down and said calmly, "You're here to catch me, right? You can find me here." "Jessica, your ability is out of my expectation. I'm even more surprised that you're here." He skipped the matter of the club. Jessica said hurriedly, "Yi, go back with me first. I believe that you're wronged. You're wanted outside and in danger at any time. You'd better go back to the headquarters. I'll find a way to prove your innocence." Yi Yin sneered and said, "You still don't know? The person who wants to kill me is in his own house. I'll die if I go back." Jessica frowned. "You're in trouble all of a sudden. Sure enough, there's a traitor among us. But don't worry, I'll find a way to send you to a special guard. You'll be monitored 24 hours a day. Even if someone wants to do something to you, they won't dare to act recklessly. You should know how dangerous it is for you to be outside, and you can't expose yourself." Ian glanced at Jessica. The moment their eyes met, Jessica took a step back instinctively. But she was too slow. Her wrist was clasped by Yi Yin directly. "You don't believe me." Jessica moved her lips and said in a very soft voice. Yi Yin said calmly, "At least until now, there's no one in the headquarters that I can trust completely." Jessica took out the pistol on her back and held it out. 3 years ago, you made me trust you like this. Now, I only hope that you could trust me too." Yi Yin remained silent from the moment he took out the gun, put his finger on the trigger, and pressed the muzzle against Jessica's forehead. Jessica took a deep breath and closed her eyes. "Please let me help you." After a long time, Jessica opened her eyes slowly. Yi Yin lowered his hands. He still looked the same as when Jessica saw him for the first time 3 years ago. He didn't have a well-groomed beard, gloomy eyes, and slightly pale skin. He was almost 40 years old, but he looked as young as 30 years old. "I won't go back with you. At least let me stay by your side." Jessica grabbed Yi Yan's palm and pressed it against her forehead. From China to France, from a stranger to a friend, she had spent 3 years with him. 1,095 rotation days. Chapter 194. Genius 1. Second, remember love divided by little. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. By the way, how did you find this place? Since Jessica was stubborn, Ian hoped that he could at least get some information about the headquarters from her during this period of time. Love, go little, say, W. True, Jessica had already thought of an excuse. Your identity is too sensitive. I guess you can't stay in a regular hotel or go back to your house. So I look for this kind of small hotel along the way. Ian nodded. Under such circumstances, she had no choice but to use this kind of carpet-searching method. He believed that no one knew he was hiding here. That was to say, Jessica was too lucky. Was it God's will? But how can you be sure that I'll come back here? Jessica smiled. When a person encounters danger, his subconscious will influence him to choose a place with a higher sense of belonging. This used to be your place, so I just want to try my luck here. Yi Yin smiled bitterly. I know you're not a person who believes in luck. Jessica said indifferently. But instead of letting me do nothing, I'd rather believe in luck this time. Yi Yin suddenly said, the headquarters sent a team to catch me. Is it possible that they followed you? Jessica said, I was very careful when I left. I used a fake passport from the evidence room, so they shouldn't be able to find it so quickly. Yi Yin frowned. Not necessarily. You can find this place, but it doesn't mean that others can't find it. It seems that I need to move to another place. I need to leave this place immediately. Cough. Are you hurt? Let's leave here first. Jessica said hurriedly, go to my place first. I've been staying here for this period of time, so it should be safe. Yi Yin hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. But he just left with Jessica and didn't check out of the front desk. A bright red mini clubman stopped, and Ren Xiling, who was wearing a blue and white plaid shirt and light white jeans, got out of the car. At the same time, a dark and thin man also got out of the car on the other side. Ren Xiling looked up and then looked at the man. Mouse Chong, is this the area? Mouse Chong smiled apologetically and said, that's right, great aunt. As soon as you call me, I immediately cast a wide net. I really used up all of my connections. You don't know, but because of this, I even... Fine, get to the point. Ren Xiling rolled her eyes at him. Goddess, if I didn't have an old woman at home, and if I was 10 years younger, I would definitely pester you. Mouse Chong squinted his small eyes and said, Ren Xiling for the half-drunk milk tea to him directly. Rat Chong shrank back and quickly said, I have a brother who is making a living at the nearby way station. A few nights ago, he said that he saw a man who was similar to what you described. I also showed the photo you sent me to that brother. He said that there was a 70 to 80% resemblance. Where did he go? Here, this street. Mouse Chong pointed. Great aunt, it's very messy here, and many hotels are private. If that guy wants to hide, he can hide here. But it's a pity that there are at least dozens of private hotels here, so it's not easy to find him. Great aunt, are you going to find him now? Wait for me. Ren Xiling was looking around the street while going deep into this area. Listen, if a person wants to hide, especially in this kind of place, he will definitely choose a place with a wider view. Ren Xiling said, look at those around the corner or near the street, and write them down. Those in the alleys will be the second batch. Mouse Chong shrugged. If he really wants to hide, won't the alleys be more hidden? Sub-editor Ren sneered. Only a low-class person like you would want to hide in a dark place like a mouse. Listen, if the vision is good, it's convenient to observe the surroundings at any time. Even if you want to escape, you can immediately cut into the complicated alleys. But if you're in the alleys, not to mention the vision is blocked, it's also possible that people will block your way before they find you. On the contrary, there are many people on the street, which is the best hiding place. Mouse Chong was stunned and said in amazement, Great aunt, how about you join the gang? Me and you? Well, do you want to be a prostitute? Ren Xiling said with a smile. Mouse Chong quivered. If there's money to be made, what can I do? As long as your great aunt says the word, whether it's up or down, I'll do it without hesitation. F*CK, what a talent. Ren Xiling shook her head, walking into a hotel as if she was defeated. As soon as she entered the door, she asked with a smile, Is the boss here? I want to ask you something. Great aunt. Do you want to be a prostitute or not? You haven't told me the hourly salary. How about the commission? How much is the monthly holiday? Let me tell you, I don't accept all kinds of customers. 3 in one night, no more than that. Here. Yi Yin didn't feel something was wrong until he came to Jessica's place. But he didn't ask immediately. Instead, he chose to enter Jessica's rented unit. Looking at the tools placed in the living room, Yi Yin frowned, asking abruptly, How long have you been monitoring the downstairs unit? Jessica seemed to have expected Yi Yin's question. She took out a group photo from the folder. This is what I found before the people from the headquarters went to your apartment. Yi Yin took it, glancing at Luochio, who still looked a little childish in the photo. He put the photo into the inner pocket of his windbreaker, saying, It seems that you don't completely believe in luck. Jessica sat down. At least it gave me some inspiration. Yi Yin nodded. Since he chose to believe Jessica for the time being, he would try not to quarrel with her. But he still emphasized, the downstairs unit is my benefactor, the teacher's family. This time, I just had a meal with them. They don't know anything about me, so I don't want them to be involved in my affairs. I'm sorry, I have no choice but to do this. I don't intend to do anything to your acquaintances here. Now that I've found you, I'll find some time to remove all the things in the downstairs unit. Yin shook his head. It seemed that he didn't want to continue this topic. Jessica suddenly took out her mobile phone. Yin frowned. What do you want to do? Jessica seemed to be frightened, saying hurriedly, Relax, I just want to show you something. I found this when I installed the bug in the downstairs unit. I think you'll be interested in it. Jessica turned on the mobile phone, showing a photo. It was a saxophone. I'm sorry, I'm too nervous. Yin sighed, taking the mobile phone from Jessica's hand. He stared at the photo with nostalgia. I gave it to my teacher's son. It's been a long time. That kid used to say that I was very handsome when I played this thing. Jessica said with surprise, I never knew you could play this kind of instrument. Yin smiled but didn't say anything. He looked at the layout of this unit casually. Suddenly, he felt a little dizzy. His body retreated a few steps. He had to hold on to the cabinet to stand up. This kind of dizziness seemed to have reached its limit in just 2 or 3 seconds. Yin looked at Jessica subconsciously. You're too vigilant. You've been guarding against me since we left the hotel. You didn't trust me. Jessica sighed. There's something on the mobile phone that can make you dizzy. I'm sorry. Jessica thump. Yin fell to the ground. Jessica squatted down slowly, tidying up Yin's messy hair. Emotion is the biggest weapon. You taught me before. Have you forgotten, boss? I want to ask you something. This was already the 7th hotel they had visited. Mouse Chong looked at Ren Xiling from the back. Why was this woman so strong? Did she become a workaholic because she didn't have a man and had nowhere to vent her energy? Mouse Chong simply lay down on the sofa in front of the hotel. The boss who was reading the newspaper glanced at it casually. 150 yuan per hour, 230 yuan per night, 200 yuan deposit, single room only. 10 yuan per suite. What the F*** CK? Am I that kind of woman? How many times has it been? Sub-editor Run controlled her anger, smiling. No, I just want to ask you if you've seen this person. She clicked on the photo on the mobile phone. The boss glanced at it and continued reading the newspaper. I don't know. Leave if you don't want to stay. I don't have time. Ren Xiling raised her eyebrows. She felt that there was a chance when she heard the boss's words. She smiled. 500. Go away, don't bother me. 1,000. Ren Xiling rolled her eyes. Who do you think I am? I've been running this hotel for more than 20 years. I'm talking about credibility. Don't you see the sign at the door? Peace Hotel. 3,000. F*** CK? So what if you're rich? F*** CK off. Sub-editor Ren pointed her finger at the boss, then closed her fingers and chopped the manekiniko beside her into pieces without blinking her eyes. Mouse Chong, who was sitting paralyzed at the backside. He suddenly recalled the fear and humiliation of being ruled by this woman who claimed to have cultivated her mind many years ago. But when he looked at others, why did he feel so uncomfortable? The boss was startled. He saw her pointing at him and then clenching her fists slowly. What the F*** CK? Her knuckles were making cracking sounds. Have you seen this man? Sub-editor Ren asked word by word. Chapter 195. Genius remembers love in 1 second / small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Ren Xiling began to ask some questions. The uncle of the Peace Hotel was very cooperative. He has stayed here for several days, but he didn't go out. Today is the first time he went out. Did he say anything to you? The uncle hesitated for a moment. Ren Xiling said indifferently, I'm his sister-in-law. Something happened at home, and I want to ask him to go back. The uncle automatically began to imagine. His sister-in-law was his elder brother's woman. As for his family, it was probably a gang. Anyway, this woman is not simple. My lucky cat. However, he couldn't believe it completely. But if it was true, the uncle still thought it was better to protect himself. Ren Xiling just gave him a big stick. She took out 2,000 yuan and put it on the counter. This is the money for your lucky cat. The uncle counted the money with a smile. Yes, he seems to be waiting for someone to send him a letter. In fact, not long after he left today, there was a letter that was delivered here. Rin Xiling looked at her hands. Uncle said hesitantly, "That isn't it inappropriate?" Rin Xiling took out her mobile phone and checked the address book. The name was Mahoud. She sneered. "You have been here for so long. You should know what this name means. Do you believe that I can make you unable to do business here for the rest of your life with a phone call?" Uncle immediately broke out in a cold sweat. As a person who lived in Jianghu, who didn't know what this name meant, the uncle was really annoyed. "Why didn't you say that you were the big bearded man in the police station at the beginning? Why did you break my lucky cat?" "That's it," the uncle said in fear. "But you can't tell that customer that I—" "You know." Rin Xiling took the letter but didn't open it immediately. She asked, "You said he went out earlier. Did he tell you when we come back?" The uncle shook his head. "No. He just went out with a foreign girl." TSK, TSK. Looking at that foreign chick's expression, there must be something going on between them. Right now, he's probably enjoying himself somewhere. A foreign girl? Rin Xiling was stunned. What does she look like? Around 30 years old? Quite tall, blonde hair, big breasts? Anyway, all foreign girls look the same. How can I tell the difference? Around 30 years old, blonde hair, big breasts? I seem to have met one in the past few days. Could it be such a coincidence? Rin Xiling frowned and quickly walked out of the hotel. Big sister. My letter, my letter. Unexpectedly, Mouse Chong walked in front of his uncle, stretched out his finger and shook it in front of his uncle, then slowly clenched his fist. I don't have a second fortune cat." Seeing Mouse Chong floating away, the uncle wiped his cold sweat and sat down. Although he had been in this business for more than 20 years, and it was not the first time he encountered such a situation, he was still very depressed. He lowered his head and wiped his face. At this time, the door seemed to have been pushed open again. "What else do you want?" The uncle raised his head a little angrily, then suddenly became stunned. It was not the man and woman who came in, but another woman. She was wearing a black dress, which seemed to have a deadly beauty, but she was dragging 2 big suitcases. "Excuse me, is there a room here?" Yes, yes." The uncle looked at her with infatuation and subconsciously said, "Can you prepare a room for me?" The woman in black said softly, Okay. The uncle gave out the key to a room as if he had lost his soul. "In addition, can you prepare some food for me? It's written here, just some of it. I'll pay the money first, and if it's not enough, I'll make it up later." Uncle didn't look at the banknotes the woman in black put on the counter. He just watched the woman walk to the stairs. Just when he was thinking whether he should help her carry the luggage up, he saw the woman easily lift the 2 oversized suitcases and walk upstairs. The uncle subconsciously looked at the menu in his hand. Damn, she can eat so much. She can eat as much as a dozen people, right? No wonder she's so strong. That's not right. How could such a small body stuff so much food? After Yi Yin woke up, he saw Jessica again, but he couldn't move. And the place was no longer that unit, but another place. Yi Yin took a deep breath, saying with a bitter smile, "I really shouldn't believe you. Are you going to take me back like this? Or are you actually one of them?" Jessica became silent and didn't say anything. But at this moment, another voice came from behind Yi Yin. "Let me tell you the answer." Yi Yin didn't even turn his head, but he had already judged who was standing behind him by the voice. King Kong. King Kong walked up to Yi Yin from behind. He grabbed Yi Yin's shoulder and said with a little force, I haven't seen you in a while. I didn't expect you to look so good. How's your recovery? My hands have been itching these days." Yi Yin sneered. "Yeah, I thought it would take me a long time to recover, but it's only been a few days." "Sure enough, your fists are too light." "Tut tut. Have a try." King Kong sneered too. Unexpectedly, the silent Jessica suddenly came forward and grabbed King Kong's arm, saying indifferently, "I caught him. It's not your turn to deal with him." King Kong raised his eyebrows. "What? You can't bear to see your old sweetheart?" Jessica said calmly, "If you use such an idiotic method, when will you be able to ask him where he hides the things he knows and the evidence that was discovered last time? Even if you beat him to death, you won't be able to get it out." King Kong frowned. "Do you have a way?" Jessica said, Don't forget what I do for a living. I know more about interrogation than you. She walked to one side, where a box was placed on the table. After opening it, there were some syringes, medicine, and pills inside. King Kong shrugged, retreating to one side. He raised his hand, looking like he was watching a show. At this time, Jessica said, "Get out, you're not needed here. If you let him go secretly, what should I do? He's your old sweetheart. I have to keep a close eye on him." Jessica said coldly, "Do you want me to ask for permission from my superior before letting you go? Don't forget, since I'm here, I'm in charge of you." "Okay, whatever you say." King Kong shrugged. "If something happens, I won't be responsible, Humph. Keep your voices down. I didn't expect that you're one of them." Ian looked at Jessica in disbelief. She was mixing some medicine and pills beside it. It wasn't that he hadn't seen this thing before. In the headquarters, it was often used to interrogate prisoners, which was also known as the truth medicine. Jessica flicked the syringe without looking at Ian. "But haven't you seen it? Were you also the one who exposed my whereabouts in Lion? Is it necessary to ask so many questions?" Jessica turned around, walking towards Ian step by step. Ian wanted to struggle, but he was too weak to do so. He was like a lion that was shackled by a large number of chains. His eyes narrowed. Jessica walked over and sat on Yi Yan's lap. They looked at each other. Suddenly, she said, "Yi Yan, why don't you join us? This is the worst joke I've ever heard in my life." Yi Yan sneered. "Join you? Join Michael Club? Do you think I don't know what this damn place does?" Jessica said indifferently, "Everything we do is to make this world a better place." Yi Yan laughed. His smile was unusually bright. "This is the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. To make this world a better place? So you sell drugs, resell weapons, smuggle military munitions, and even cause chaos in the Middle East and Africa? You tell me you're doing this for a better place? Ha ha! Do you think the evils in this world can be eliminated?" Jessica said indifferently. Yi Yan snorted. "Isn't this nonsense?" Jessica said, "As long as human beings exist, the evils in their nature will not disappear. Since there's no way to eliminate them completely, we'll use effective methods to manage them. When there's only one source of evils in this world, a new order will come. When there's only one source of evils in this world, a new order will come." When his words fell into the ears of the third and fourth person in the room, the third and fourth person reacted differently. The fourth person revealed a smile with great interest. As for the third person, Luochio was thinking about this seriously. He started to think about what Yi Yan said to Ma Haud. They were the collective name of several people, or more than 10 people. They were probably important people in all walks of life. Capitalists, senior officials, even drug lords, warlords, and so on. So their idea was to become the source of evils in this world and bring the world into a new order, not to mention whether this idea was correct or not. Luochio felt something was wrong when he heard these questions. Just how much of a Chinibu soul was burning in the brains of this group of Michael Club's leaders? Clowns are just clowns. That's all they can think of. This was the second time that Yi made the same comment about Michael Club. Luochio didn't choose to answer Miss Maid's words. He just looked at Jessica and Yi Yan quietly, watching Jessica insert the syringe into Yi Yan's body little by little. Chapter 196. Genius 1. Second, remember, love, divided by little. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Jessica left Yi Yan's body after the first dose was injected. Love Golul say. Chushi looked at Yi Yan and said, "Before the next injection, I hope to hear your answer." Yi Yan sneered, lowering his head and looking at the floor. Jessica didn't seem to mind. After packing up her things, she walked out slowly. King Kong came up to her and asked, "How was it? Did you get the answer?" Jessica said indifferently, "He's trained and he's injected with antibiotics every year. He needs at least 3 doses to take effect. Why are you in a hurry?" King Kong said disdainfully, "I thought it was a good idea. It's so troublesome." Jessica sneered, "You caught him once. Don't you know that you can't get anything useful out of him, even if you kill him?" King Kong snorted. Jessica asked, "Where's the batch of goods? Is it safe?" King Kong said, "I'm the only one who knows where the goods are. It's absolutely safe. Don't worry." Jessica frowned. It's been so long. I need to take a look and make sure. Take me there. King Kong shook his head. No need. I said it's safe. The organization will find a way to transport the goods in 2 days. You'll see it then. You better spend more time on this man. After all, the things he knows are the most deadly to the internal members of the criminal police. I have my own plan. Jessica said indifferently. I'm going out to do something. You stay here and watch him. Don't let him go away like last time. I have to deal with it for you. King Kong sneered. Don't worry. I'll watch him 24 hours a day this time. Unless he's a ghost, he won't disappear from my sight. Jessica nodded. You'd better not touch him. Pain, intimidation, and even talking to him will only wake him up. It'll be harder for the drugs to take effect. King Kong shrugged and punched the sandbag next to him, making a buzzing sound. He said indifferently, I know you're worried about your old flame. I'll hit this one, okay? Jessica glanced at King Kong coldly and didn't say anything else. She quickly returned to her rented apartment, but she didn't immediately return to her own floor. Instead, she went downstairs and opened someone else's door. Luacio's door. After removing all the equipment here one by one without leaving any traces, Jessica took the elevator back to her own staircase. But she didn't expect to see Ron Xiling here at this time. Jessica was shocked, but she was unusually calm. She revealed a puzzled expression. Miss Ren, are you looking for me? Ren Xiling had been here for more than 10 minutes, and the doorbell had been ringing for some time. Ah, yes, I'm looking for you. Sub-editor Ren turned her eyes and said with a smile, It's like this, neighbors, didn't you sprain your ankle a few days ago? I just want to see if you're feeling better. Jessica smiled faintly. Thanks for your concern. I'm fine now. Ah, is it? Ren Xiling nodded and suddenly said, Oh, can I go in and have a look? It's like this. For the past few days, water has been dripping from my balcony. I want to see if the drain pipe of your air conditioner is broken. Hee, I'm not saying that it's definitely you. Actually, I asked all the way here. It's okay. Jessica opened the door. Come in and have a look. If it's me, I'll inform the landlord immediately. Ren Xiling walked in and started to look around. Jessica said, Miss Ren, the balcony is over there. Ah, yes. Ren Xiling suddenly said, Ah, can I use the toilet? I suddenly want to go to the toilet. It's okay. It doesn't seem to be the problem here. Love, go little say, Netku, sorry to disturb you. Nothing. Not a F***king thing. There was no extra person in the room. Ren Xiling couldn't help sighing, thinking that her intuition was probably wrong this time. It's okay. Jessica sent Ren Xiling to the door. She watched Ren Xiling enter the elevator and fell into deep thought. The uncle took out a suit from the wardrobe and combed his hair into a young man style. He carried 2 bags of takeout and came to room 505. Before knocking the door, the uncle even cleared his throat. Ahem, miss, the food you ordered is here. The woman in black who had just checked in opened the door and looked at the uncle. If she didn't remember wrong, this uncle was wearing a white vest, shorts and flip-flops just now. But it didn't matter. She nodded and was about to close the door after receiving the takeout. Hey, wait a minute. The uncle held the door with one hand and leaned against the door frame. Is there anything else? Well, we need your ID card to register. Miss, you haven't registered just now. The uncle said seriously, This is a proper place. The woman in black gave a start and smiled at the uncle. Boss, I've already registered. Have you forgotten? The uncle blinked his eyes and said absent-mindedly, Oh, right, you've registered. Boss, go back to work if you have nothing else to do. Okay. The uncle turned around at once and walked down the stairs in a daze. The woman in black shook her head after closing the door. At this moment, a small black shadow flew in front of her. The woman in black reached out her hand and grabbed the small black shadow. Piggy, you have to wash your hands before eating. Have you forgotten what I taught you? Oh, I'm so hungry, Sister Blackwater. Wash your hands, or you won't have anything to eat. Blackwater said with a straight face. Pig rushed to the bathroom like a bitter gourd. Blackwater shook his head and opened the 2 suitcases. Inside the suitcases, there were many small animals. She blew at them, and one by one, The little animals began to return to their original forms and jumped out of the suitcase. The little rabbit monster rubbed her eyes. Sister Blackwater, have we arrived? Well, Zhu Sui is the first one to wake up. Blackwater laughed. Come on, you guys eat something first. After eating, I'll go out. You stay here and wait for me. But remember, don't go out of this room or open the curtains, okay? The little rabbit monster said obediently. Okay, Ling Ling will take care of them. Haven't they come back yet? Got it. Mouse Chong, keep watching them. If they come back, tell them that the envelope is with me. Ask them to come to me if they want it. Throwing the phone on the sofa, Ren Xiling heaved a sigh. Olya's matter was really worrying. Tut, tut, tut. It hurts. Of course, it was cool to smash the Manekiniko with a karate chop, but there was a price to pay for it. Sub-editor Ren sighed that she had lost her youth while wiping the tequila on her palm. In the past, she would have smashed at least 2 of them. It hurts so much. What are you doing? I heard you screaming before I came in. Ren Xiling gave a start and hid the tequila behind her in a hurry. She forced a smile at the door. No, a mosquito was biting me just now. Why are you so early today? Don't you need to make up lessons for the beautiful high school girl? It was reasonable to say that if she thought about it normally, she would probably find something wrong after such a long time. But Ren Xiling obviously didn't, because we were used to believing the words of our close relatives. Luochio didn't talk about this issue, but walked to Ren Xiling and sat down, saying indifferently, "What's hidden behind?" "Nothing." Ren Xiling looked at the incandescent lamp above her head. "Damn mosquito, it's still there. Why are you looking at me? Is there something on my face? Let's watch TV. By the way, you just came back. Don't you want to take a shower first?" Got it. Got it. Ren Xiling couldn't bear Boss Luo's gaze, so she could only obediently take out the medicine hidden behind her back. Looking at Luochio frowning, Ren Xiling said, "I just accidentally hit my hand. I really didn't break other people's things. F***CK. Damn it, actually exposed it unconsciously. When did this guy's eyes become so majestic?" Luochio exhaled and stretched out his palm. Ren Xiling had to obediently put the tequila on Luochio's hand. Luochio picked up Ren Xiling's injured palm. After applying the medicine, he began to knead it, saying, "Did you pay for it?" "Yes." "It hurts. Be gentle, be gentle. Can't you have a tender heart for the fair sex?" Sub-editor Ren's eyes were watery, with a look of hidden bitterness. "It didn't hurt the bones, just the tendons." "Yeah, I said it's okay. It hurts. Be gentle." "I'm wrong. Boss, please let me go. Don't touch water tonight, and don't eat sour and spicy food these days. You haven't eaten anything, right? I'll make some millet porridge for you." Luochio touched the medicine in his hand, walking toward the kitchen. "Who said a woman can't live without a man? This son of mine can stick to me for a lifetime." Sub-editor Run, who suddenly had a great sense of satisfaction and pride, couldn't help giggling. But she quickly restrained her smile and walked back to the room. She stared at the envelope on the table and couldn't help but frown. His uninjured hand slowly reached for the envelope, but he quickly retracted his hand. No, I can't see it." She gritted her teeth, stretched out her hand again, and then withdrew it again. "I really can't see it, or old you will scold me to death, so..." She stretched out her hand for the 3rd time. "It should be okay to see a little, right?" Chapter 197. Genius 1, Second Remember Love Divided by Little. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. I'll go out for a while. Luochio, who just came out of the kitchen with a pot of millet porridge, saw Ren Xiling rush out and go straight to the door. "Well, I have an interview, so I may come back very late. Don't worry about me." Ren Xiling threw another sentence. Then came the sound of closing the door. Taking off his gloves, Luochio frowned with a thoughtful look. Although he tried his best to hide his anxious look, he couldn't hide it from Luochio's eyes. How many days had it been? Anyway, it had been many days. These days, Butterfly Monster Luo Dance felt that each day was as long as a year. Miss Su Zijuan, a temporary resident of the pet center. Su Zijuan and Long Shirua seemed to be born to dislike each other. As long as they stayed together for more than a minute, they would always find some inexplicable topic to start a quarrel. Butterfly Monster, who felt that she was not familiar enough to stand on Su Zijuan's side, would always be dragged into the quarrel between the two. She felt so tired, but in Butterfly Monster's view, Miss Su Zijuan was not really that kind of person who liked to nitpick. How should she say it? Something like bad mouth? Something like not good with words? Something like saying one thing and thinking another? For example, every time after a Cold War with Sister Long, she would indirectly ask about Sister Long's situation from Butterfly Monster. Butterfly Monster had finished reading the Xinhua dictionary recently. Butterfly Monster felt that it was a great progress for her to be able to use so many idioms. Where's that old woman? Luo Dan sat in front of the counter of the pet center, shaking her feet and drinking milk happily while answering. Sister Long is dozing off in the office. Love, go little say W. Chu Miss Zijuan, you can just go in and look for her. Su Zijuan snorted. She was actually holding a casserole in an apron. At this time, she put the pot on the table and said indifferently, "This is the failed product I just made." Only the old woman's tongue was suitable for this kind of thing. If you don't want to continue being a payroll thief here, you can feed it to her. He could have just brought it in himself. He wasn't a thief. Luo Dan sighed. When she was about to speak, a woman in black came in. The woman in black looked at Luo Dance and Su Zijuan. She hesitated for a moment before asking, "Excuse me, is Dr. Long here?" Su Zijuan narrowed her eyes slightly and licked her lips. She suddenly said, "That old woman isn't here, but if you have any problems, you can look for me." Su Zijuan suddenly stopped talking. At this moment, her body suddenly floated up. Of course, it was not her intention, but because her collar was caught by something at this moment. To be exact, she was lifted up by someone. Furthermore, in the next instant, she was thrown to the side. It was Long Shirua who came out. She glanced at the woman in black and said indifferently, "Don't worry about this guy. Come into my room first." The moment Long Shirua came out, the woman in black became unusually respectful. She nodded slowly and followed Long Shirua into the office. "What can I do for you?" Long Shirua sat on the office chair, crossing her legs and lighting a cigarette. She looked at the woman in black in front of her, black water, and said slowly, "Your breath has weakened. With your aptitude, you should have become stronger in these years." Black water took a deep breath and suddenly knelt down in front of Long Shirua. "Lord Long, please help me." Long Shirua frowned and chose not to support her. "Stand up and tell me what happened." Black water sighed. 10 years ago, Long Shirua slowly exhaled the smoke and said indifferently, "When I met you 200 years ago, I told you not to be distracted and to complete your transformation. I said the same thing to you 100 years ago. 15 years ago, you still couldn't concentrate. Black water, you're the descendant of one of the greatest ancestors of our monster clan. If you can cultivate well, not to mention one tiger demon, even 10 mature ones won't be able to defeat you." Black water looked at Long Shirua and said seriously, "Lord Long, if we monsters have to fight for territory like humans to survive, what's the difference between us and the humans who forced us to the present situation? Fighting is the nature of all species. If the world is dominated by the monster race, do you think there will be no fighting for territory? It will only be fiercer." Blackwater shook her head. "We've mastered spirituality from ignorance. We've learned to think from instinct. Isn't this an evolution of getting rid of our animal nature? You know, even among the beasts, there are breeds that don't fight." Long Shirua said indifferently, "You asked me to help you. What I did was to suppress the tiger by force. That's the embodiment of animal nature." Blackwater was stunned and lowered her head. "Lord Long, as long as you persuade it, it won't occupy the place where we live. No, it won't occupy the original place. Instead, it will leave and go to other places." Long Shirua said indifferently, "It will only yield to me. But because it yields to me and gives in to you, it will also invade other places. The tiger monster needs a lot of primordial energy to survive. After so many years, it finally can't help but fight. Naturally, it can't stand it anymore. You don't want to fight, but the fight will happen because of you." Blackwater gritted her teeth. Long Shirua sneered, "In the final analysis, it's all because you don't want me strong. You're afraid of your own power. You're afraid that you can't control it. These fears have wasted your bloodline. Go back and think carefully. If you really wanted to help you, come again. Black Water clutched her dress and left in a dejected manner. Su Zijuan was chatting with a butterfly monster in the hall. She looked at Long Shiraw and said with a faint smile, "Is she its descendant?" Long Shiraw glanced at Su Zijuan indifferently. "You're not allowed to touch her because she's under my protection." The last Shinryu in Kelowna's land indifferently glanced at her, which made the girl who was half of Hamba's bloodline feel cold all over. "Humph!" Su Zijuan snorted coldly. "Why do you ask me to come out so late? Do you know that my woman almost thought that I was going to fool around?" Ren Xiling rolled her eyes at Ma Haud. "Look at your face. I'm afraid that you can't even satisfy your woman. Don't you feel embarrassed to say that you're fooling around?" Ma Haud gritted his teeth, but he didn't want to argue with her. Anyway, he had never won a victory over this woman. If he continued, he would only ask for trouble. "Then why do you ask me to come out? Look at this." Ren Xiling showed the envelope to Ma Haud. She frowned and said seriously, "This is for Yi Yin." "Old Ma, why did Yi Yin come back this time? Why is the place written here a cemetery? And why is it the place where my husband is buried?" Chapter 198. A genius will remember love in 1 second divided by small. Say net, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Ma Haud quickly glanced at the contents of the letter. There was indeed such an address, and then there was a time. Love go small, say, calculating the time. It happened to be 3 days later. Who gave this letter to old Yi? The time is 3 days later, so it should be 3 days later, and we should meet here? Ma Haud frowned and guessed, but he was also puzzled. But why this place of all places? This is what I find strange. Ma Haud, tell me honestly, do you know something? Even if he knew something, could he say it? He couldn't say that Yi Yan's bad luck involved the powerful Michael Club. He just heard about it for the first time, so he didn't know much. After being knocked unconscious by Yi Yan and Xiao Chun Martial Arts Club that day, Ma Haud almost exploded with anger when he woke up. But what could he say? He knew Yi Yan's character too well. Sir Ma sighed secretly and pretended to be calm. "Sister-in-law, if I knew, would I be so confused when I read this letter? Besides, how did you find this letter? Did you find Yi Yan?" Ren Xiling told him about what happened at Ping An Hotel. "I asked Mouse Chong to stay there, but there's no news yet. I guess he hasn't come back yet." "Well, tell me the address, and I'll wait there tonight. I'll take this letter first." Ma Haud pressed Ren Xiling's shoulder and said, "You go back now, and I'll inform you as soon as there's any news. You know you can't control your mouth, and although your precious son doesn't talk much, he's actually very smart. If this matter is exposed, there'll be one more person to worry about, understand?" "Okay then." Ren Xiling nodded. "I don't care. If you can't wait, no matter what you say, I will go to the cemetery in 3 days." Sir Ma nodded. "If you can't wait, I'll go with you in 3 days." He was buried in this place. There was no light in the cemetery at night, and the surroundings were quiet. Only the sound of insects could be heard. How long had it been since he last came here? He remembered that the last time was when he was sweeping the tombs last year. Luochio stood in front of the tombstone. He lowered his head and closed his eyes. After a while, he reached out and swept away the dirt on the tombstone. Uncle Ma and Ren Xiling had to wait for the right time to come because they didn't want to alert the enemy, even though they didn't know who had asked Yi Yan to meet here. However, Luochio did not have such concerns. "I'm fine. Don't worry," Luochio said softly in front of the tombstone. When his father died in the line of duty and was buried here, Ren Xiling also said something similar. "I'll take good care of your son. Don't worry." At that time, neither Ren Xiling nor Luochio himself had expected that a few years later, Luochio's fate had changed dramatically. "Master?" Suddenly, Yu Ye's voice sounded in front of the quiet cemetery. She seemed to be surprised that Luochio would be in such a place in the middle of the night. She could come to her master's side at any time. Therefore, many times before she came, Miss May didn't know where her master was. Miss May glanced at the tombstone quickly. Without saying anything, she stood in front of the tombstone and bowed deeply. "Love go little say, 'Cause I haven't been here for a long time." Luocio looked up at the night sky. Those sparse and almost invisible stars were faintly discernible. Yu Yi listened to her quietly. Miss Maiden knew that her master was immersed in her memories. Luocio suddenly stretched out his hand and said, "That's the North Star. When I went camping with my father when I was a child, he taught me how to identify the location by the stars in the sky. He said that if I was stranded in the wilderness one day, I could at least find the North Star and not get lost if I had something like a compass with me." Luocio lowered his head and smiled. "It's a pity that although I learned it, I didn't use it before. I'm afraid that I won't have a chance to use it in the future." Luocio shook his head. "The stars have darkened. They're not as bright as before." He stood with his hands behind his back. After a long time, he sighed and looked at Yu Yi, saying softly, "By the way, why are you looking for me? Is there something wrong with Yi Yin?" Yu Yi nodded. "There's something wrong, but Mr. Yi is fine. Instead, he was rescued by someone." Luocio was stunned. "Who?" Yu Yi shook her head. "It's not clear yet. It's a masked person. It should be a man." The mysterious man rang the fire alarm downstairs. After sending King Kong away, he immediately took Mr. Yi away. I followed him all the way. But it's strange that after the man rescued Mr. Yi, he knocked him out and placed him in a forest in a park. Then he left. Well, what about the man in black? I've locked his whereabouts. If you want to find him, you can find him right away. Yu Yi said, "Mr. Yi will wake up soon. He's safe at present, so I came back to report this to my master." Luocio nodded. He pondered who the person who rescued Yi Yin was. Except for him, no one should know where Yi Yin was taken to. While he was thinking, Luocio looked around casually. He happened to see the back of his father's tombstone. Luocio frowned. He walked to the back of the tombstone. There was a small patch of grass under the back of the tombstone. There were obvious traces of being turned over. It wasn't difficult to find as long as one observed carefully. Luocio narrowed his eyes. He squatted down and touched the grass that had been turned over. He easily lifted a patch of grass. The moment he lifted it, Luocio's whole body seemed to be stiff. His posture was motionless. Even his eyes didn't move a bit. Yu Yi took a step forward and subconsciously looked at the mud pit that had been lifted up. Beast fur, dead rats, broken bones. These were all filthy things. At this moment, there was a burst of stench. This should be something that was placed here not long ago. Who the hell is it? Luocio took a deep breath and stood up slowly. He looked at Yu Yi expressionlessly. He stretched out his hand and stroked his heart. His voice was very soft. At the beginning, the club imprisoned my soul. During this period, some of my emotions started to fade away. But now, they suddenly became strong. Do you know why? Master, someone here used these filthy things to disturb my father's peace. His eyes suddenly turned a strange silver, and the space behind him seemed to distort. A gigantic door that seemed to have buried countless vengeful spirits appeared out of thin air. It was slowly opening up a little. In the distance, Tinzi suddenly held his head and painfully lay on the ground. It seemed that something had frightened him. He felt despair. In the Zhang family's mansion, Black Soul number 9 was hiding in a more secretive place than usual. At this moment, he held his head with one hand and knelt on the ground with one knee. A painful expression appeared on his face. Black Soul number 18 suddenly knelt on the ground and looked at a certain direction in awe. In university in Russia, a young man with tattoos all over his body suddenly woke up from his sleep with cold sweat all over his body. England. A woman also woke up from her sleep. Her heart was beating violently. She subconsciously looked at the far east direction as if she had heard someone calling her. Pet Center. Long Shirua frowned. She stared at the sky and muttered to herself, "Who? Is this evil intention?" As the last Shinryu in Kelowna, she couldn't calm down at this moment. Chapter 199. Genius 1, Second Remember Love, Go/Small. Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Ian sat down slowly against the wall. In a small alley. He didn't see clearly who saved him. That person seemed to have pricked him with something when he saved him. From then on, he fell into a state of confusion, until he finally woke up in the park. Ian couldn't help but think. The last time he was caught by King Kong, He should have been rescued by someone. Twice. Was it the same person? Yi Yin frowned. He put his hand into his collar and took out a red rope. There was a small piece lock tied to the rope. Although he came back this time mainly because he wanted to find out the goods hidden here by Michael Clubb, there was another reason, this piece lock. It was sent to him with a letter before the accident. The letter only had one content, which was to let him stay in a hotel called Peace Hotel in this city at a specified time. Ian just came back, so it wasn't the specified time yet. He simply monitored King Kong while waiting for the appointed time. As for the first time he was rescued by an unknown person, he simply came to Peace Hotel to recuperate. The one who saved me and the one who sent the letter are the same person? Ian thought so subconsciously, but he couldn't figure out the purpose of this mysterious person. However, this piece lock that was sent to him gave him a reason to do as the mysterious person instructed in the letter, because this piece lock was something he put into the ashes of his deceased girlfriend. This was something he brought with him when he was a child. His parents asked for it to keep him safe. Clenching his fists, Yi Yan's eyes were cold. When he just got off the plane, he didn't go to the hospital to visit Ma Haud immediately, but went to Xiao Chun's grave in person. The grave was destroyed, but he really couldn't understand. If the person who destroyed the grave and the one who saved him were the same person, what did that person intend to do? But regardless of whether or not it was the same person, the person who destroyed Koharu's tomb, no matter what their goal was, had already successfully enraged him. Ian took a deep breath and stood up with the help of the wall. Step by step, he walked into the depths of the alley. He had been in the industry for more than 10 years, and he had spent 10 years in this city. He knew the safest and most secretive way to return to the Peace Hotel. However, Ian did not expect that when he returned to Ping and Hotel, he would bump into Ma Haud. Middle-aged and slightly plump Ma Haud was sitting on the sofa in the lobby of Ping and Hotel with his arms crossed. He was trying his best not to fall asleep. Sir Ma was so excited that he rushed up to him. He had actually managed to wait for Yi in here. Uncle Liu, who was dozing off at the counter, glanced at him and smartly put on his headphones to listen to his song. What a joke, Sir Ma. The bane of evil in this city is here. How would he dare to eavesdrop? But Ma Haud still pulled Yi Yin aside. How did you find me here? Yi Yin frowned. Too many things had happened today, and it was too chaotic. Ma Haud snorted. Shouldn't you say something to me before asking me? Yi Yin sighed. Brother, I'm sorry for knocking you out last time. Ma Haud's face looked better. It's not me who found you. It's Xiling. Don't you remember that our sister-in-law is far more resourceful than those of us who work for the government? Yi Yin was stunned and then shook his head with a bitter smile. He subconsciously glanced at the boss of Ping and Hotel. Maybe this uncle was also Rin Xiling's informant? Ma Haud stretched out his hand and pinched Yi Yan's shoulder. Well, you seem to be much better in just a few days. Last time I saw you vomiting blood, right? I won't die of good health. My bones are hard. Ma Haud suddenly said seriously. Old Yi, I have something to ask you. You have to tell me honestly. Listen, about that club, you have your own position. I can't argue with you, but you can't hide this from me, because it's not only about you. What? Ma Haud took out the envelope and said seriously, someone sent this to you. It's the place where your brother is buried. Yi Yin was stunned, and then his pupils suddenly opened as if he was angry. He quickly tore open the envelope and threw away the letter. He glanced at it and then tore the letter in his hand without saying a word. Yi Yin, you tell me clearly. You came back this time, except for your own business. Is it related to my brother? Yi Yin took a deep breath and pressed Ma Haud's shoulder with his hands. Brother, calm down and listen to me. I'll tell you everything. 1.5 months ago, bang! Ma Haud slapped the tea table hard. The boss at the counter was so scared that he quickly turned up the volume of the mobile phone and lowered his head to read the newspaper that he had already read too many times. What? How dare he destroy Xiao Chun's grave? I'll kill him. Do you know who did it? Yi Yin said in a low voice. You want to kill him, but do you think I don't? Calm down. Regarding this matter, old Yi was the one who had the most right to speak. Ma Haud could only restrain his anger. That person first led you back and then let you see Xiao Chun's grave was destroyed. He let you live here so that he could contact you at any time. But the latter letter refers to my brother's grave. Could it be? Yin frowned and looked at Mahoud. What are you thinking? Mahoud said angrily, Damn it. Of course it's what you were thinking. I'm so stupid. I still wanted to wait for 3 days. If that bastard wanted to destroy my brother's grave like he did to Xiaochun's, he wouldn't have waited for 3 days. It's possible that he has already. Let's go. Let's go to the cemetery first. Yin said seriously. Mahoud nodded, but suddenly he was stunned and touched his heart subconsciously. What's wrong? Sir Ma was confused. I don't know what's wrong, but my heart suddenly beats and I feel very bad. Just as he said that, the uncle at the counter also accidentally dropped the teacup and stood up in shock. But he immediately sat down awkwardly. Yin frowned. It seemed that he also had a sudden shudder just now, but it just flashed by. He calmed down and said, Let's go if there's nothing else. The two of them quickly left Ping and hotel. When the two of them left, the new residents of the Peace Hotel were all trembling. They all grabbed the clothes of the black-clothed woman, black water, and surrounded her. It's okay, sister is here. Black water hurriedly comforted these little monsters. That horrible door slowly dissipated in the air. Luocchio's serious silver color had faded away. He didn't seem to notice this change. Master, the person who destroyed this place, should have left the smell. Luocchio waved his hand to stop Yu Yi from talking. He shook his head and squatted down again. His hands reached into the pile of filthy things and personally pulled out the things inside one by one. Master, let me do this kind of work. Yu Yi couldn't help but say anxiously. This was the master she should be loyal to. In the servant girl's view of the world, it was impossible to let her master do this kind of dirty work. This is my father's tomb. Since it is dirty, I have the obligation to clean it up myself. Luoccio's eyes were unusually firm. He firmly used his hands to clean one thing after another, no matter how dirty and filthy it is. Yu Yi could only silently push aside. A trace of strong, killing intent flashed in her eyes. Letting the Supreme Master suffer this kind of humiliation was equivalent to stepping on her body directly. Who is it? Just when this trace of killing intent couldn't be suppressed, Yu Yi suddenly looked at a place. She saw a figure slowly walking out of the tombstone of the nearby cemetery. It should be a man. The figure with unusually steady steps walked over and said indifferently, I'm asking you, who is it? This person was carrying a flame water lamp. His appearance gradually became clear. He was carrying 2 bags of things. It seemed that he had just come back from shopping. He didn't wear the cemetery staff's clothes. But coming to the cemetery in the middle of the night was probably not for worshiping. This person lifted the flame water lamp in his hand, illuminating Luocchio and Yu Yi. He suddenly frowned and said, What are you doing? Who asked you to dig out these things? Yu Yi said coldly, Is it you? Who buried these things here? Who are you? This person suddenly dropped the things in his hand and squinted his eyes. His finger bones were much bigger than ordinary people. He was not tall, and his face was pale. He was about 30 years old. His left foot moved slightly back half a step, and his body leaned slightly to one side. Luocchio, who was still digging out the filthy things in the pit, didn't look back at this time. Did you do this? No matter who you are, I have no obligation to answer you. The person sneered. Answer me. Luoccio's voice was lower. That person was stunned with a trace of surprise on his face and blurted out, Yes, it's me. Luocchio suddenly stopped. He raised his head and took a deep breath. I don't care what your purpose is. I don't want to know what your plan is and why. But now you come to me. That person's body seemed to be pulled by something and rushed to the front of the tombstone in a flash. Kneel down. That person gritted his teeth and knelt down in front of the tombstone with both legs. The slates in front of the tombstone made a cracking sound. He couldn't help showing a shocked expression. Kowtow. You. Give. Me. Kowtow. Kowtow. Luocchio suddenly turned his face and said in a low voice, Kowtow. Bang. The man fiercely smashed his head on the slates in front of the tombstone. His head was broken and bleeding. Bang, bang, bang. More than a dozen kowtows. Chapter 200. A genius remembers love in 1 second / small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. After personally digging out all the filth in the pit, Luaccio grabbed a handful of soil and filled the pit. Luaccio stood up. Seeing this, Yi found 2 bottles of mineral water in the bag that the man threw away. She then walked in front of Luaccio and helped him wash his hands. Finally, she took out a square handkerchief and wiped them clean. The man kneeling in front of the tombstone had already kowtowed countless times. His hands pressed hard against the stone slab. The firm muscles on his arms swelled crazily, but he was unable to stop his body. Heaven, earth, king, father, mother, 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 father. He crazily propped up his body and desperately raised his head. He even clenched his teeth, and his face was flushed red. But this time, his resistance didn't last long. Luaccio, who had already washed her hands, grabbed the man's hair without saying a word and pressed his head down. This time, it was much louder than before. Luaccio pressed down on the man's head, looked at his appearance of resisting, and calmly opened his mouth. Within the calmness, there was a kind of coldness that was rarely seen from him. You feel humiliated, right? Anger, resentment, all kinds of emotions, right? Ah, the man screamed. Luaccio took a deep breath and said, "Then do you know that this is my father's tomb? When I saw those things being buried in his grave, as a son of man, how would I feel?" Luaccio narrowed his eyes. Once again, he grabbed the man's hair and lifted his head. Then, he slammed his head onto the ground. The man who was struggling suddenly stopped. His face was already pressed against the stone slab. Blood flowed out from his forehead, making his whole face look as ferocious as a demon. "You're this man's son? You buried these things in my father's grave. Didn't you investigate clearly?" Luaccio grabbed the man's head. "What is your purpose?" The man suddenly sneered. His whole body had long become weak because of continuously hitting the stone slab, but he still stubbornly said, "I like it. So what? Kill me if you have the ability. As for wanting to know from my mouth, no way." He sneered, as if he was enjoying Luaccio's expression. But looking at Luaccio's expressionless face, he suddenly opened his mouth and said, "Oh right, I found those things casually. In fact, I even peed. Ha 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 ha. I still want to shit today." The man's eyes were extremely crazy. He knew that he was in a desperate situation, but he still madly provoked the other. This was a madman who was not afraid of death at all. Luaccio raised his eyebrows. When he was a child, he had dreams, longing, learned to speak, and was depressed for a few years. But his life was almost peaceful until now. There was no need to be angry with people. As for disputes, most of them were just a waste of time. Everyone had their reasons, but no one could win the argument, so it was better not to be too serious. This mentality had been maintained since he was sensible, but when he met this man today, it could be said that it was broken overnight. His face was still calm, but his heart was like a stormy sea. The servant girl who didn't know that her master was invisibly angry at this time. The killing intent in her eyes almost turned into substance. She was about to take action, hoping that her master could let her deal with this man. After living for hundreds of years, the servant girl had seen too many people who were not afraid of death. But if she really wanted to take action, she had never seen anyone who could be so stubborn until the last moment. But at this time, Luaccio's fingers that grabbed the man's hair suddenly loosened a little. Instead of grabbing the man's hair, he grabbed the man's forehead. The servant girl couldn't see it from behind, but the man clearly saw Luaccio's strange silver eyes. "You're called Yuhua. How did you—" "The man." Yuhua looked a little surprised. Luaccio directly closed his eyes, saying as if he was talking to himself, "Not only my father's tomb. Before that, you even took Sister Xiaochun's tomb. Humph, okay. Who the hell are you?" Yuhua was shocked. His crazy eyes were not as crazy as before. "It's you who let Yi Yin live in the Peace Hotel, just for the convenience of monitoring him. There's only one reason you're doing this, and that's for revenge. Yin was just the first person, then it should be Ma Haod, then Ma Hao, then... Luochio said several names in a row. Yuhua turned pale with fright. He grabbed Luochio's wrist that was grabbing his forehead with both hands, desperately try to get rid of it. But this hand seemed to become a part of his body. He couldn't shake it at all. Lunatics didn't fear death, but they were incomparably afraid when others revealed their secrets one by one. 4 years ago, the mastermind of the major crime case that happened in this city was your father. A year ago this time, your father died in prison. 2 days later, it will be his death anniversary. Your revenge plan will start 3 days later. The first one is Yi Yin. Luochio suddenly let go of Yuhua's forehead, saying indifferently, "No, your revenge plan has already started since you destroyed Xiaochun's tomb. Yi Yin is your first target. You want to irritate him. 3 days later, you let him come here and make him angry again. You want to see him die in anger and pain in your hands. He would be afraid, that kind of real fear. That kind of fear when all the secrets were revealed in front of him through others' mouth. There were no secrets to speak of. All his thoughts were seen through, just like stripping off all his clothes. Maybe your revenge plan can really succeed." Luochio stood up. "After all, you have been preparing for revenge for 3 years. You know that you are not Yi Yan's opponent, so you have been practicing martial arts hard. Eagle Claw, right?" Yuhua opened his eyes wide, looking at Luochio unbelievably. Did he even that thing? His heart was beating crazily unconsciously. This kind of authentic eagle claw needs to soak in a secret potion to strengthen the finger bones and make them much stronger than before. But this kind of potion can only be obtained by the real master of eagle claw, that is, your father's junior brother, your uncle master. In order to get this potion, you even... Stop talking. Yuhua became extremely agitated in an instant. Your uncle master likes men. Luochio sneered. So you even at... Stop talking. This was the deepest and ugliest secret. A person who was not afraid of death, but faced the humiliation from the heart with fear. The lunatic who intended to irritate the opponent was now on the verge of collapse. The night wind blew in the cemetery. Yuhua was still immersed in that painful experience, but he heard Luochio said indifferently, "You want to irritate Yi Yin again, but you don't know that before that, you have successfully irritated another me." The verbal attack was still going on. There are too many ways to take revenge. There's no need to practice martial arts hard for revenge. You know, even your father who died last year also knows. But 4 years ago, your father had run out of bullets and fought with Yi Yin. In the end, he lost to Yi Yan's Bajiquan. Your father was a martial artist since he was young. So were you, before your father died. He grabbed your hand and told you that you must defeat that man. Your father was like a god to you. How could he be defeated? He couldn't be defeated by others. As long as he defeated Yi Yin with his own hands, your father would become the omnipotent god in your heart again. You even deceived yourself that your father was plotted against by Yi Yin, and he was not defeated in a face-to-face battle. For this persistence, you even became your uncle master's boy toy. For half a year, you treated yourself as a woman, serving your uncle master. His words hit the heart. The two were exchanged. Yuhua seemed to have lost his soul. His whole body became soft. He slowly raised his head. Looking at Luochio, his eyes scattered. However, his scattered gaze quickly gathered together. Yuhua said faintly, "I swore that I would never let myself remember those things." "You go to hell." He suddenly kicked up his legs, crossing his hands in front of his chest and curling his 10 fingers into claws. This was the eagle claw. However, the eagle claw art wasn't too old. It had soaked in potions to strengthen the finger bones, increasing the strength of the fingers. Even if it could easily crush bones, it couldn't compete with the club's boss, who had a mysterious ability similar to psychokinesis. Yuhua seemed to have hit a transparent wall. His left hand turned back in the air like an eagle claw. The pain of hitting a steel plate with his fingers almost made his finger bones burst. As for the eagle claw in his left hand, it was directly broken. Yuhua retreated in horror. His left hand was hidden behind his back. His 5 fingers were wide open, trembling. He was already frightened in his heart. Unexpectedly, Luochio suddenly said at this time, "From now on, You can't mention me. I'll keep my share for now. But it's time to return the share you owe big sister, Xiao Chun to Yi Yin. Yu Hua gave a start. He hadn't figured out what this mysterious guy was going to do, but saw him step back step by step, disappearing. As the cold wind blew, Yu Hua suddenly shivered. He looked around blankly. The graveyard became quiet again, as if not a sound could be heard. It was gloomy and gloomy. However, he suddenly heard the sound of light footsteps. It seemed that someone was hurrying over. Who's there? He even heard the voice of that person. It was Yian's voice. Yu Hua looked around fiercely, as if every bush and tree was an enemy. He took a deep breath. A trace of madness flashed in his eyes. He suddenly tore off his clothes, grabbing a pendant on a metal chain around his neck. He pulled the pendant off his neck, twisting it with both hands. A small sharp thorn shot out from the pendant. Chapter 201. Genius 1, second remember, love, divided by little. Say net, providing you with wonderful novels to read. In fact, it's just hiding, not leaving. Love, go little, say W. Chuan Luochio saw the change of Yu Hua's body. He didn't look too surprised. It was the first time he bought the ability to synchronize individual thoughts from the club. It wasn't simply buying a person's past information, but thoroughly understanding a person's thoughts. Such an expense was naturally much more expensive than buying past information. But some people could spend a lot of money for their hobby. Luochio could naturally ignore the loss of lifespan because of the anger in his heart. Fortunately, he hasn't reached the point of despair. Looking at the little change of Yu Hua, Luochio said indifferently, "This guy is the buyer of the batch of goods that Michael Club hid here. He has the secret medicine of Michael Club, which can strengthen the body in a short time. It should be something like the secret medicine used by King Kong. In a short time, it shouldn't be a complete product." Yi thought for a while and said. Luochio nodded and said, "But it's enough for people who have seen its power to treat it as a life-saving thing. It's because he still hides such things that he feels he still has a chance to turn the tables. Otherwise, I won't be so relaxed." But Uncle Yi came here. It seems that they have contacted each other earlier. Luochio shook his head. "Forget it. Since he's here, he's here. After all, Uncle Yi is more suitable for Sister Xiaochun's share." Yi just smiled slightly. She understood what Luochio meant by not so relaxed. Yu Hua had an almost obsessive desire for revenge. This person's paranoid thoughts could easily lead to the arrival of the club's transaction mechanism. Now, it didn't appear for a long time, naturally because this guy hadn't reached the point of despair yet. Miss Maid retreated behind Luochio. On the one hand, she didn't intend to block her master's sight. On the other hand, she naturally hoped her master could be close to see the next fierce battle. She could feel that Luochio's anger had calmed down a little, but she did not think that her master would let it go so easily. It was only because the master's father was not the only one who was insulted. There was another. The anger from the destruction of Miss Cochin's grave should naturally be resolved by Mr. Yi Yan. The people who grew up in this country regarded filial piety as extremely important. What's more, because of Yu Hua's behavior, the door appeared on its owner in advance. It could be seen how strong the new owner's emotional impact was. The origin gate had appeared ahead of time. Yu Yi slightly thought, "Although I still can't forgive Yu Hua for what he did, I should say thank you to him for angering the new master." When Yi Yin and Sir Mahaud arrived at the cemetery, they both frowned at the same time. The two of them saw a bare-chested man kneeling on the ground with his hands covering his face, as well as his exposed, terrifying muscles that were filled with a sense of power. The weird man in front of them stood up slowly. Sir Maud directly said in a low voice, "Who are you? What are you doing here in the middle of the night?" Yu Hua glanced at the two. His voice became much lower than usual. "Yin, Mahaud, both of you are here. Just in time. I'll kill both of you at the same time. No need to waste time. After killing all of you, the next target will be that damned bastard." Yin frowned. "Do I know you?" Yu Hua sneered. "What? You can find this place. Haven't you thought of something? Have you forgotten how the jade, locked dug out from the dead land, was sent to you?" "It's you." Yin narrowed his eyes. His tone was full of anger. Yu Hua laughed. "Are you angry? But not only that. Do you know why you're so unlucky recently? I'll tell you. From the time you broke that place 2 months ago, you have been falling into my control step by step. After the secret medicine entered his body, Yuhua not only got a strong physical ability, but also a constant sense of excitement and pleasure. He couldn't help saying everything in front of Yi Yan. Looking at Yi Yan's angry and resentful expression, Yuhua felt that it was the most wonderful thing in the world. He looked at Yi Yan, mocking him. Why do you think you could easily find the clues of the dirty things those stinky policemen had done in that hideout? Do you really think someone was so careless? If I didn't arrange it on purpose, do you think you could find it? Ha ha, is it painful? 4 years ago, you got a great achievement because of that case, and then you started to have a meteoric rise. But 4 years later, you became the target of both legal and illegal forces, like a rat crossing the street. Look at you now. How down and out. How ridiculous. Yi Yan didn't say anything. Love go little say Nepka, however. Officer Ma angrily defended his brother. F***CK. Who the F***CK do you think you are? What did my brother do to you? Why do you treat him like this? You're a F***king beast. You don't even let go of a dead person's grave? Yuhua snorted. Not only Yi Yan, and you pighead. Ma hout, let me tell you, my name is Yuhua. I'm Yujingda's son. Not only you two, and those people who acted together with you 4 years ago, even your family, I don't want to let any of them go. Sir Ma gave a start. Yi Yan also slightly opened his mouth, looking at Yuhua in a completely different way. What the F***CK? Your father killed so many innocent people 4 years ago. I heard that he died in prison 1 year ago. He was so happy that he got drunk that night. Ma Howd snorted. But I didn't have enough fun. Today I'll have a good time. Yuhua suddenly sneered. You were just a coward who hid on the side and got some merits in the end? Saying this, Yuhua suddenly jumped up, crossing a distance of more than 3 meters, rushing to the front of Ma Howd, raising his fist and punching towards Sir Ma's face. Watch out! Yi Yan pushed Ma Howd away in the crisis, grabbing Yuhua's arm, suddenly twisting his body sideways and kicking his waist with his knee. The ribs on his waist were very fragile and could be easily broken by such an attack. However, Yuhua seemed to be fine, standing there motionlessly. Yi Yan couldn't help turning pale with fright. He suddenly thought of another guy. King Kong. That guy was the same. His body seemed to be made of iron. Yi Yan's mind raced, but he didn't stop. He exerted all his strength and hit Yuhua's chin with his palm. At the same time, he bent his other arm and hit Yuhua's collarbone under his throat with his elbow. This change of movement was fierce and fast. Unexpectedly, Yuhua seemed to be fine, lowering his head, sneering, I planned to have a good fight with you, but now it's not necessary. This is the power I inherited from my martial uncle after I killed him. If I knew he was hiding such a thing, I wouldn't have. Humph. Go to hell. A heavy punch came down. Yi Yan clenched his fists in front of him, but his whole body flew out as if he was hit by a car. This kind of inhuman strength was too horrible. Feeling his arms were numb, Yi Yan looked at Yuhua with astonishment. He saw Yuhua with a teasing smile, walking towards him step by step like teasing a mouse. Baji? Just like this? Sure enough, you must have used some dishonorable means to defeat my father. Yi Yan didn't speak, just slightly moving his center of gravity down. Bang! But at this moment, a loud sound came from Yuhua's back. A gunshot. Yuhua's body staggered, directly kneeling down on the ground. His leg was penetrated by a bullet. F***CK. Ma Howd, who was in the distance, cursed. Do you think I'm a coward who came out of nowhere to make a living? Back then, I was playing with a Barrett M82A1, and I was playing support. Although Sir Ma had gained some weight in his middle age, and his belly was above the belt, he still looked majestic with a pistol in one arm. Humph! I'll kill you first. At this time, Yuhua suddenly stood up from the ground. The bleeding calf didn't seem to be an obstacle to him. His action was still as fast as before. Sir Ma was shocked, shooting several times at Yuhua's leg and shoulder, but he couldn't stop him at all. This guy was like a monster who didn't fear pain. Sir Ma gritted his teeth, pointing the gun at Yuhua's forehead. But at this moment, Yuhua suddenly lowered his body, rushing to Ma howled like a cat, and easily knocked him down on the ground. You could have killed me the first time. Yuhua sneered disdainfully. But you policemen are idiots. You only think about catching people. You stick to those creeds, and that's why you die. Seeing Yuhua's terrifying fist, Yin knew that Ma Hao couldn't bear such a heavy blow. So he suddenly said, Yu Jingde is a loser. Yuhua stopped at once, grabbing the gun from Ma Hao's hand and squeezing the pistol into a ball. He threw Ma Hao into the air and threw him to the ground. What did you say? Dare you to say it again? I can say it as many times as I want. Yin sneered. He's indeed a loser, or else how could he be defeated by me? Eagle claw, chicken feet. I'll break your mouth first. Yuhua's eyes turned red, rushing to Yi Yin without saying anything. This body didn't fear pain and had endless strength. After a few moves, Yi Yin was pressed to the ground by Yuhua as if he had lost the power to resist. He grabbed Yi Yin's neck and grinned. I noticed that you seem to be injured, so I plan to give you 3 more days to recuperate. After that, you can fight with me for real. But now there's no need for that. Do you have anything to say before you die? Yi Yin squeezed out some word from his throat. You are right. At this moment, Yi Yin suddenly waved his hand, and a cold light shot towards Yuhua's eyes. Yuhua instinctively turned his head to avoid it. But at this moment, Yi Yin's hand quickly swept over Yuhua's wrist. Yuhua, who couldn't feel the pain, was furious. When he wanted to crush the opponent's throat, he found that his hands had no strength. Yi Yin, who was pressed down, twisted his body crazily, rolling aside, and at the same time his hand swept over Yuhua's ankle. Yuhua was even more furious. When he was about to chase him, he suddenly knelt on the ground, unable to stand up. He turned pale with fright. What did you do to me? Yi Yin touched his neck, coughing twice, and then said with a hoarse voice, You're right. It's not glorious for me to defeat your father, because I'm best at using knives. He turned his hand over, and there was a small dagger between his thumb, especially this kind of knife, the sharpest. Yuhua suddenly understood. His tendons in his arms and legs had been completely severed in that instant, just now. Yuhua was frightened, crazily moving his body. His tendons had been cut off, so he could only crawl. Yi Yin walked over quickly, and the knife in his hand directly pierced into Yuhua's shoulder and knee, completely sealing his ability to move. Chapter 202. Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second /small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Ma Hao got up from the ground, shaking his head to make the dizziness go away. He then walked towards Yi Yin. Yi Yin, are you okay? I'm okay, I won't die. Yi Yin spat out a mouthful of blood. The 2 middle-aged men looked at each other, seeing the familiar smile on each other's face. Sir Ma stretched out his fist, so did Yi Yin. 3 years later, the old men's fists once again gently touched each other's fists. What's wrong with this guy? Officer Ma frowned and looked at Yuhua, who was lying on the ground. Yuhua's body suddenly twitched, and he kept spitting out white foam. His unusually strong muscles shriveled up little by little. Yi Yin squatted down to feel Yuhua's pulse. It's very weak, but it won't kill him immediately. Maybe he used some special drugs like hormones or stimulants before. It seems that he had experienced something before we came here. Maybe he just guessed that you would come here in advance. Ma Hao said with lingering fear. I've lived long enough to see such a thing. This guy was like a wild beast just now. Old Yi, did this guy just mention that he was the one who set you up? Yi Yin thought for a while, searching Yuhua's pants. He simply found a phone and a wallet. Yi Yin recalled the second time when he was rescued by someone. Although he couldn't see the person's face clearly, he was obviously thinner than Yuhua. And from the conversation with Yuhua, it could be seen that he wasn't the one who rescued him. Then, who on earth rescued him? Brother, can you do me a favor? Yi Yin suddenly asked. Ma Hao patted his chest, saying nothing. Yi Yin looked at Yuhua, who was lying on the ground. Don't let him die, and don't let others know that he is in our hands. He may be my chance to turn the tables. Sir Ma nodded. I know a barefoot doctor. Yi Yin nodded. The 2 men hurriedly lifted up Yuhua, who was in a coma. Before leaving, they glanced at the tombstone and said with one voice, Brother, We'll drink liquor with you next time. Master, Mr. Yi and Officer Ma have left the cemetery with Yu Hua. When Yi returned to the tombstone, she saw her master sweeping the surrounding soil with a broom. A fight had just taken place here, and there were many traces left behind. Even the tombstone was a little dirty. Got it. The two didn't talk. Luo Qiu cleaned the tombstone silently, waiting for the dawn to break. Jessica and King Kong stood in front of a tablet at the same time. On the screen, they could only see a man's chin. It was so dark that they couldn't see anything else. Love, go, shout, say, W. Chew, that man said indifferently. King Kong, this is the second time you've lost someone. I really doubt your ability. King Kong lowered his head, not saying a word. Not only was he depressed, but he was also extremely angry. But that was indeed the case. But he was obviously unwilling to be reprimanded by the higher-ups. King Kong suddenly said, Mr. Sun, I think it's strange. Only Jessica and I know about this place. She just went out, and someone came to save him. I think it's a coincidence. Saying this, he even squinted at Jessica, who was beside him. Jessica didn't move, just like a statue. The man on the screen suddenly raised his voice. Enough. Jessica won't betray us. Don't find excuses for your negligence. Think about it with your brain. She has exposed herself in front of Yin. It's even more impossible for her to let him go. It's not good for her at all. King Kong also knew what was going on, but he was suddenly restrained by this woman, so he couldn't think straight. He frowned. I'll find him as soon as possible. And the guy who saved him, I'll find him as well. Jessica, besides you, is there anyone else from your side who came here secretly? According to the previous intelligence, there seems to be someone in your organization who has been helping Yin secretly. His contact? Jessica shook her head, saying with uncertainty, I haven't received any news yet, but I can't rule out the possibility that someone is acting secretly. I'm not in the headquarters, so I can't get hold of some things immediately. That man kept silent for a while and said, and the mysterious person saved Yin. It's an uncontrollable variable. King Kong, inform the buyer to deliver the goods in advance and let them prepare. Jessica will be in charge of this transaction. Yes, he wasn't very willing, but he could only agree calmly. When it was almost dawn, Sir Ma finally let out a sigh of relief and sat down. Yin was bandaging his arm beside him. It was upstairs of an indoor traditional Chinese medicine pharmacy. An old traditional Chinese medicine doctor lived here. The old traditional Chinese medicine doctor washed his hands at this time, pulling the curtain aside and walking out. Officer Ma, the master's life is saved. I've also taken out the bullet, but he lost too much blood, so I'm afraid he won't wake up so soon. In addition, his tendons in his hands and legs, as well as some important joints, have been damaged. I suggest you send him to the hospital as soon as possible for him to undergo surgery. Otherwise, I'm afraid he'll be permanently disabled. The person who did this is too vicious. Sir Ma didn't dare to say that the person who did this was actually sitting beside him. He coughed slightly. I'll have a plan. It's better for this guy to be disabled, or I don't know how many innocent people will be hurt. The old traditional Chinese medicine doctor didn't say anything. I'm going to decoct the medicine. You two take your time to talk. Yin suddenly asked, Sir, can I use that computer? Oh, you can use it. Yin nodded, walking to the front of the computer. He found a data cable on the table, quickly connecting it to Yu Hua's mobile phone, and then started to work. Brother, what are you doing? Cracking the password of Yu Hua's mobile phone. Yin looked attentive. Since he's the buyer's man, I'm afraid there will be a lot of clues in it. I just saw a new message. I want to see the complete content. Ma Hao blinked, picking up the mobile phone, swiping it randomly. This mobile phone isn't locked? Yin furrowed his brows. He took the mobile phone. He took a look at it just now. It was obviously locked with a password. It's strange, but he still clicked on the interface of the message. Content: 8:30 tomorrow evening, the underground parking lot of Caesar Commercial City at 105, wearing a black cap. Deliver the goods in advance. Be careful. Deliver the goods in advance. Yi Yin said with a heavy tone. Deliver the goods in advance. Ma Hao showed a smile on his face. Yi Yin emphasized, wearing a black cap. Ma Hao smiled. It's very likely that Yu Hua and the seller haven't met. Chapter 203. A genius will remember love in 1 second divided by little? Say Net, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Yes, he hasn't arrived yet. Love, go little say, Net W. Chew but, don't worry, I've arranged for someone to lock him up once he appears. Don't worry, don't worry. Really? How dare I? When have I ever lied to you? Okay, I'm going to have a meeting, that's all. Sir Ma wiped off his cold sweat and turned off the phone. Facing Yin, he spat out his grievances. To be honest, I'd rather be bombarded by those baldies in the police station than face this girl's questioning. This girl, was she a mouse in her previous life? She can sniff out problems from everything. Yin patted Ma Hao's shoulder with a thank you for your hard work expression. At this moment, Ma Hao patted Yian's palm. Bro, last time you said you didn't want to burden me, so you knocked me out. This time, you're not in a position to say anything, right? I'm involved in this muddy water. Maybe we really need to use the police force here. Yian said helplessly, whether it's King Kong or they all know me. I can't be there for tonight's handover. Ma Hao nodded. Don't worry, I've arranged for someone. If King Kong hadn't been interrogated by me because of a previous case, I'd be there myself this time, no matter what. TSK. I haven't been involved in such a big case for a long time. I can't control myself anymore. Anyway, let's end it tonight. Ian took a deep breath. He closed his eyes. From now on, he would conserve his energy. 1 year ago. Germany, Luxembourg. Do I look weird in this dress? Jessica fiddled with the long dress on her body unnaturally. Compared to her unnaturalness, Yian looked quite elegant in his formal attire. Seeing that Yian just glanced back and forth in the banquet, Jessica frowned. I really regret listening to your suggestion. In fact, there is no need to disguise as a guest to sneak in here. I can adapt to it as well. Yian took 2 glasses of champagne from the tray of an adapter and gave one to Jessica. The adapter's degree of freedom is not enough. Could it be that you feel like you're about to be outdone by the female guests here? Is it the jealousy of a woman? Jessica sneered. I just feel that if something happens to this kind of high heels, it'll just be a hindrance to our movement. Yian smiled and said, Actually, it's still very beautiful. Don't worry, you should believe in your own beauty. Jessica replied indifferently, Thank you. The target has appeared. Yian stood in front of Jessica and blocked her view. This guy is very alert. Don't look at him first. Get closer to him later. Jessica said unhappily, Don't treat me as a newbie who just left school. I know what to do. Besides, you're the newbie who's being guided by me. At this moment, the music sounded. It was a waltz. All of a sudden, Yian grabbed Jessica's hand and put it on his shoulder. What do you want to do? Of course, to get closer to the target. Yian said softly, Don't worry, I won't step on you. Or rather, I'm more afraid of being stepped on by you. Jessica glared at Yian fiercely but didn't know what to say, let alone turn against him on the spot. She told herself that it was just to get closer to the target. She and Yian hovered among the guests who invited them to dance, getting closer to the target bit by bit. Under the blurred lights, the sweet waltz and the slow dance steps, Jessica, who couldn't remember the last time she danced, suddenly felt a little absent-minded. It's not bad. Jessica looked at Yian's eyes and said, though Yian's sight was always on Jessica, she could feel that his eyes were wandering around, paying attention to every passerby. He led her to the target in an orderly way without leaving any trace. I used to have a dance partner, Yian said casually. She knew that he had some sad memories in the past, so she didn't continue to talk about it. She began to size up the man in front of her seriously. He was mature and calm, but his eyes were always gloomy. Even though they had cooperated for 2 years, she didn't feel that she really understood his heart. Jessica felt that Yian's eyes were telling a story at this moment. His black and white eyes were totally different from the eyes of the Westerners. But at this moment, it was like a fatal magic power to her. Her body hovered in the dance steps, but she couldn't get away from the sight of his eyes. She could even see her own reflection in his eyes. Yian's face was getting closer to her. Jessica stood on tiptoe out of instinct. Just like the kissing fish that met in the sea, they would eventually overlap during the time of this mission. The throbbing from the heart made Jessica forget everything in an instant. Just as they were about to overlap, Ian suddenly stopped and apologetically said, "Sir, I'm sorry." It turned out that the two people who had stopped just happened to bump into another pair of guests who were dancing toward them. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I couldn't help kissing my partner, so I stopped. I hope you don't mind." "It's nothing." The man smiled and praised, "Such a beautiful partner. If it were me, I would do the same." As if it was just a small interlude, the man continued to lead his partner away. Jessica took a deep breath, suppressing the strange throbbing in her heart. She heard Ian whispering with his head down, "The tracker is installed." "Oh, is that so?" Jessica lowered her head. "Then let's go out first." Jessica opened her eyes after a short nap as her head suddenly became heavy. She touched her lips subconsciously. It was a dream, but also a memory of the past. There was a glass of red wine beside the sofa. Jessica looked at the light red liquid in the glass. She took off the necklace on her neck, fiddling with it gently between her fingers. The phone rang at this moment. It was King Kong. "I've arranged it. You can come over now. Mr. Sun asked you to be in charge of this transaction." "Got it. When the time comes, I'll be at the appointed place." After hanging up the phone, Jessica looked at the time for 21 p.m. She took a deep breath, but there was a lingering fear and uneasiness in her heart. She wasn't sure what would happen next except for tonight. With a heavy heart, she changed her clothes casually. She didn't go back to the apartment she rented. Last time, Rin Xiling's inquiry made her vigilant, so she chose to rent a hotel nearby. There was no one in the elevator. It was empty. Jessica walked in. The moment the door of the elevator closed slowly, she held her arms tightly and took a step back. As if she had just entered a cage, she couldn't see the surroundings clearly and couldn't see the road ahead. There was no road ahead. This feeling came from her thoughts and her will. Ding! She arrived at the first floor. The moment the elevator door opened, Jessica saw an old pine wooden door. She hesitated for a while, then pushed the door and walked in. It was still that strange place. That dark spot that never changed, and all kinds of strange decorations placed around it. Everything made her feel a sense of dread. "Miss, you're here again." Chapter 204. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Jessica asked for a pen, 2 pieces of white paper, and 2 envelopes from the club. She lowered her head and started to write something. In Luacio's eyes, she was much more cautious than the last time when she came in, sat down, and made such a small request. There were all kinds of customers with different personalities and behaviors. This was probably the reason why Luacio had a strange sense of expectation for new customers every time. Jessica finished writing quickly. She put the paper into the envelope and took a deep breath. She didn't ask why a beautiful servant girl appeared this time instead of the weird old man last time. She suppressed her curiosity about this mysterious place. All she needed to know was that as long as she was able to pay a sufficient price, she would be able to buy what she wanted no matter what. Jessica sat in front of the boss and pushed out the envelope. She said slowly, "I don't know the price, but it shouldn't be high. I need you to open these 2 envelopes after sunrise tomorrow." "It's not necessary to do such a small thing." Luacio shook his head. "Since it's the customer's request, we won't read the letter before sunrise. We can promise you that." Jessica said, "No, I don't believe in any verbal promise. Since we have to complete the transaction fee here, this is the first thing I want to buy today." "I see," Luacio said indifferently. "How about the total time between now and sunrise tomorrow as the transaction fee?" Jessica gave a start but didn't say anything. She nodded. After signing the contract for the first time today, she seemed to feel a little relieved. Then she said, "Please open it if I don't take them back before 6 o'clock tomorrow. I have something I really want to do." "Sorry, we don't accept this request," Luacio said after a moment of silence. "Because if we can't negotiate face-to-face, we can't confirm the customer's request and whether the customer has enough transaction fee." He picked up the envelope. "For example, what is written inside is far beyond what you can pay for. Even if we read it, we won't do anything. Therefore, we suggest that you do not make such a designation." because the customer may not be able to get what they want. Unexpectedly, Jessica seemed to have already thought about it. She said something shocking. I'll use my soul as collateral to carry out the transaction in the first letter first. But if that's not enough, then please carry out the second letter. That is, I will pay the full transaction fee in advance. If the contents of a second letter also exceed the value of the transaction fee, then please calculate and fulfill a portion of the contents of the second letter. But if I collect these 2 letters before sunrise tomorrow, then I need to get my mortgage back. But don't worry, I'm not toying with you, because I can use a part of my lifespan as a service fee for this process. After a moment of silence, Luaccio said, Customer, you don't even know if the transaction fee is enough, and you don't even know to what extent we will achieve. Are you willing to use your soul as collateral? This is a huge gamble. Please think carefully. Love, go a little say, because once the contract is signed, there's no room for regret. Jessica said seriously, no, I believe that you will complete the contents of the second letter. Luaccio frowned. He suddenly had an impulse to read the contents of the second letter. But due to the spirit of the contract, he had to wait until sunrise tomorrow to open the 2 letters. Jessica left, but if she didn't show up before sunrise tomorrow, according to the second contract, her soul would be drawn out directly. The club had always paid first and received later, or made a direct transaction in an instant transaction. It was Luaccio's first time to do this kind of transaction where the transaction fee was paid in advance and the degree of completion was calculated according to the value of the goods. But this was the customer's request, which didn't violate the club's transaction rules. Master, the things are ready. When Luaccio was pondering, Yi came to him with a tray in both hands. The tray was covered with a white cloth. Luaccio lifted the white cloth and touched the things inside. He revealed a faint smile. In a nanny van not far from the commercial city, Serma was cautiously instructing the young policeman in front of him. The young patrol officer seemed to be a little nervous because Officer Ma was putting on a tracking device and a bulletproof vest for him. Listen, you're the smartest one in my team. I believe you could do a good job. Ma Howard exhorted, but don't force yourself. If anything goes wrong, leave immediately. The case can be investigated again. If the prisoner is lost, you can catch him again. But if you lose your life, you will lose your life. The young police officer took a deep breath and nodded silently. Mahoud continued, once the thing is exposed, I'll ask someone to show up immediately. Remember to stay calm and don't give yourself away. It's better not to talk about unnecessary things with the other party. Focus on this transaction. Understood. The young police officer nodded. He tidied up his uniform and put on a black baseball cap. He was about to open the car door when he saw Zhang Heng. Sir Ma suddenly stopped him. Wait, you put this on. Officer Ma, this is not your... It was a pistol that was sent over. Ma Howd smiled. This guy has been with me for a long time. I've been relying on it for so many years. The young policeman nodded and quickly put away the pistol. He saluted to Ma Howd and quickly got off the car. Bro, relax. Ian patted Ma Howd's shoulder and said, I'm not nervous. Ma Howd wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. Do I look like a nervous person? Ian grabbed Ma Howd's shoulder with force. Then let's get to work. Okay. Sir Ma took a deep breath and put on the monitoring headphones. At the same time, he said into the microphone, all units, listen to my orders at any time. 8:20 p.m. The young patrol officer walked slowly in the underground parking lot. He pressed down on the black baseball cap he was wearing, lowered his head, and gradually walked towards the designated location. At the designated spot, he only saw a black Santana, but there was no one in the car and no footsteps around. Time passed by little. The young policeman frowned and suddenly began to check the ordinary black Santana. He walked around the car and then suddenly crouched down and began to check the area of the car. Not long after, the young police officer found a bag stuck to the chassis in the rear wheels territory. After he opened the bag, he found a mobile phone and a car key inside. 8:30 p.m. The phone rang. I'm here, where are you? Don't be nervous. You just need to follow my instructions. I hope you don't blame us for being too careful. A woman's voice came from the phone. Say it. The young policeman followed Sir Ma's instructions and said briefly. Chapter 2:05. Genius 1 second remember love / go / small. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. They started to instruct our people to take action. It seems that they are very cautious. Mahoud took off one of his earphones, looking at Yin and frowning. Follow or not? Follow, Yin said decisively. At this point, there's no reason not to follow. Brother, I want a map. In the Santana, the young police officer said to the phone, I've driven into Sunset Boulevard. Turn around before entering the tunnel. I've already turned around. Very good. Then you go to the Ring Expressway and come out at the first toll station. Get off now. Do you see the bus stop next to it? Take the first bus that comes here. Get off and walk to the pedestrian bridge in front. Nearly an hour had passed since they drove out of the underground parking lot. The young police officer, who was quite familiar with this city, couldn't help but think. In this 1.5 hour, Sir Ma's deployment had been disrupted. It seemed that the other side was too cautious. I've already walked to the pedestrian bridge. Very good. You face the direction of Zhongnan Boulevard. I'll start counting down from 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, you jump down. 5, 4. Even without giving any time for the undercover young police officer to consider, the woman on the other side of the phone had already started counting down. 3, 2, 1. The young police officer gritted his teeth, climbing up the guardrail at once. After taking a deep breath, he directly jumped down from here. At this time, a huge roll-on vehicle was driving over the pedestrian bridge from the other side. The young police officer who jumped down from the pedestrian bridge fell into the roll-on vehicle at once. In the upper position of the roll-on vehicle, the young police officer secretly wiped his cold sweat, looking around clearly. This was a roll-on vehicle transporting a car. He picked up the phone again, sticking it to his ear, and said with a trace of anger, Do you have the heart to do this business? I'm really sorry. Forgive us for having to be so careful. Because the sky eye in this city is more powerful. Whether it's you or us, we may have been exposed. You're saying that you've been exposed? The young officer suddenly asked. I'm only saying that it's possible. All right, now please throw away the phone in your hand. Of course, throw away the phone on you as well. Done. Please go to the end of the upper level and climb down. We're at the last car on the second level. The young police officer quickly made his way to the back of the rolling truck and climbed into a small white car. He saw a man and a woman here. The man sat in the driver's seat, while the woman sat in the back seat. Your cautiousness infuriates me. Jessica sized him up casually and said indifferently, Please fasten your seatbelt. The young police officer couldn't help but frown. But at this moment, the car suddenly started to move backward, breaking through the guardrail behind the rolling car and landing on the road. After a bumpy ride, the white car had already driven into the side road and then into the small road in the city. Where's the goods? The young police officer frowned and asked. King Kong, who was driving the car in front, chuckled. You'll see it soon. Don't worry, I'll give you the car later. Where's the money? The young police officer took out a small electronic key from his clothes. Give me the goods, and I'll give you the money. No problem. King Kong whistled, licking his lips. Sit tight. At this moment, Jessica suddenly gave the young police officer a long black cloth. Lastly, please cover your eyes. Do you believe that I'll terminate this deal at any time? Jessica looked at his extremely dissatisfied eyes, saying indifferently, You know, as the buyer and the seller, this is our first deal. The last time we were abroad, we were interrupted by the Interpol. It happened too suddenly, so, as the seller, we have to be more careful. So, if you really want to complete this first deal, please cooperate with us. Of course, you can terminate it, but you have to remember that you can't find better goods than us. Don't worry, we just want to complete this deal. We won't do anything to you. The young police officer could only cover his eyes silently. The signal is cut off. In a nanny van on the road, Sir Ma threw down the earphone in his hand, biting it. F***CK? Do we get exposed? Yin said calmly. Not necessarily. They're just being careful. Jessica is an elite from the Interpol. She should have some interference equipment with her. I'm afraid they're afraid of being betrayed, so they're being careful. Sir Ma said anxiously. We've lost contact, so we can't confirm the safety of the operatives. He's in danger of being exposed at any time. The key is that we don't know what happened after he jumped off the overpass. Ian put his hands in his hair, closing his eyes. Time passed by little. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth, shouting, "Get off, I'll drive." The car stopped, and the young police officer finally heard the order to take off the black cloth. He first looked around. It seemed that he had entered another parking lot. After getting off, King Kong opened the trunk of the car. There was a brand new license plate inside. King Kong smiled. "Are you relieved now? We're well prepared. You can put on the license plate and go anywhere you want. Of course, you don't have to drive." "Where's the goods?" King Kong said indifferently. "Follow me." King Kong walked in front, and Jessica walked behind. They sandwiched the young police officer in the middle. They went up from the lift in the parking lot to the second floor. "Love, go, shall, say W." Chew, the young police officer checked the floor. 27 floors. There weren't many buildings with 27 floors in this city. He suddenly hugged his hands tightly and tapped his fingers lightly on his waist. Walking out of the lift, King Kong led them to the door of a room, the monitoring room. King Kong knocked on the door. Soon after, the door to the control room opened. When a security guard came out and saw King Kong, he seemed very surprised. But before he could say anything, his mouth was covered by King Kong. Then King Kong punched his abdomen, and the security guard fell to the ground directly. King Kong walked to the control panel of the monitoring room, erasing all the records from the parking lot. Then he turned around. He looked at Jessica. "Let's deal with this security guard later. I worked in this company not long ago, so he knows me. Don't worry, I'll handle it well." This was Great Xia, where Heaven's Shadow Entertainment Company was located. Jessica nodded. She took out a laptop, plugging in the network cable of this place. Then she aimed the screen at herself. Soon, a man with only half of his chin exposed appeared on the screen. "Are you the one sent by General Bassoon to make the deal? You're the only one?" The man with only half of his chin exposed asked directly. "Aren't there only two of you?" That man nodded. After a moment of silence, he said slowly, "Jessica, you did a good job this time. I saw the whole process from catching that guy to commanding this operation. I admire your ability. King Kong, take out the goods." "Yes." King Kong walked to the bottom of the surveillance screen and started to open the bottom panel. Not long after, he took out packets of blue powder and a leather bag from the large cabinet of the combination screen. Jessica opened her mouth. "So the goods have been hidden here all along." King Kong said indifferently, "I used to be a bodyguard here and also a part-time security supervisor. It's best to put them here, where I can be guarded for free every day. Of course, there's still at least 2 months before the next maintenance." King Kong took out the bags together with the goods, spreading them out. 28 kilograms of high purity. "Do you want to check them? But I have to remind you, try not to take too much, or we won't have the obligation to help you if it's too high." The young police officer took the bags and pretended to look at them. How could he know whether they were real or not? "Have you finished checking them? We're trustworthy. We can't cheat you," King Kong said impatiently. "Okay, no problem. Then let's make a deal." King Kong logged into an overseas bank account on a laptop. The young policeman looked at King Kong and then at Jessica behind him. He could only walk to the laptop step by step, taking out the electronic key and inserting it into the laptop slowly. He squinted his eyes slowly, putting his hands on his waist with his back facing the two policemen. Bang! All of a sudden, a loud sound reverberated in the monitoring room. The young policeman felt a piercing pain from his back. Then he fell to the ground directly. "Jessica, what are you doing?" King Kong was stunned and then became furious. Unexpectedly, the second shot also hit him directly in the chest. You actually..." King Kong opened his eyes wide, looking at King Kong unbelievably. He knelt down and fell to the ground. Putting down the pistol in her hand silently, Jessica looked at the screen of the laptop coldly. The man in the screen didn't seem to be in a hurry. He just rested his chin on his hands. "I really don't understand why you betrayed us only now. You're the one we've trained since childhood, so it's impossible for you to betray us." Jessica took a deep breath. "Mr. Sun, let's make a deal. Let's hear it." Jessica grabbed a small package of blue powder. "It's not easy to refine this kind of thing. A small package is worth a lot. I think Michael Clubb won't throw it away so easily, right? Interesting, go on. I want to break away from you, Jessica said slowly. She even looked at the man's reaction on the screen. But he didn't seem to be moved at all. But I know this probably won't happen. So I changed my request. I want you to send my mother safely to the headquarters of the Interpol before sunrise tomorrow. If you don't agree, I'll destroy these things now. Are you really going to betray us? The man said indifferently. Maybe you're just confused for a moment. I even think you might have misunderstood something. We're not controlling your mother, but providing her with an ideal world to live in. In that utopian place, there was no fighting, no sorrow, and no hatred. Everyone lived happily. The man's voice became gentle. Jessica, you have to know that it's heaven. Only those who are chosen by God can live in the heaven. Your mother can live in this heaven because of you. Why do you want her to go back to this realistic hell? Jessica, you're the one chosen by God. You're the apostle who will bring a new order to this world. This is your mission. Have you forgotten what you believe in? The man's voice seemed to carry endless magic. Jessica took a step back and revealed a painful expression. She held her forehead and tried to open her eyes. Jessica, you're the best. You're our outstanding warrior, our child, and the most loyal supporter of our belief, aren't you? Stop talking. All of a sudden, Jessica pulled the trigger on the pistol in her hand and shot randomly at the monitor. She panted and said, "Send my mother out of here safely before sunrise. Otherwise, I'll destroy these goods immediately. That's all I ask for." The man seemed to sigh. Is it because of Yin? It seems that the mortal's feelings have made you degenerate. Jessica, you used to be the child we thought highly of, but now you've been contaminated. Get rid of those who have been contaminated. The screen turned off automatically, and the man disappeared. Jessica felt a terrifying sense of crisis invading her whole body. She turned around instinctively, only to see that King Kong had stood up. The bullet wound on his chest was still glaring. Blood even dyed his clothes red, but he didn't seem to feel any pain. King Kong twisted his neck and showed a grim smile. I hope you can endure more than your old lover. Jessica raised the pistol in her hand calmly. However, King Kong suddenly tore off his clothes and threw them at the other party. The moment her line of sight was blocked, King Kong was already in front of her at lightning speed. He directly chopped her arm with his hand. It was as if her arm was broken. The sharp pain made her drop the pistol on the ground. Jessica gritted her teeth and quickly took out a small round box from her belt. She opened it with force. A strong white light filled the entire monitoring room in an instant. King Kong lost his sight. King Kong waved his hands angrily. All he heard was the sound of the commotion. When he regained his vision, Jessica had obviously escaped from the surveillance room. King Kong gritted his teeth and quickly looked at the screen in the monitoring room, looking for the other party. Soon, King Kong sneered, "Since you want to kill, then you can't escape." He then quickly left the monitoring room. The young policeman moved his body suddenly. He got up from the ground and undid his clothes. Finally, he took off the bulletproof vest. Looking at the bullet marks on the back of the vest, the young policeman heaved a sigh of relief. He stood up and loosened the muscles on his neck, muttering, "So this is the feeling of being a spy. It's quite exciting." At the same time, the young policeman touched his face and slowly took off a thin layer of cloth, revealing his original appearance. It was a handmade, genuine leather mask from the club's servant girl. Chapter 206. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. It was extremely heavy to carry a big bag of goods on her back. 28 kilograms was especially heavy for a woman's body, especially when she was running. Love, go little say W. Moreover, one of Jessica's arms was chopped by King Kong. It was probably fractured, but she had successfully taken the elevator down to the parking lot. Fortunately, King Kong had given the key to the buyer in advance to show his sincerity. When a mini flash grenade exploded, she successfully took the key from the buyer. It didn't take long for her to escape and get into the white car. Of course, it could be faster, but she had to throw away the goods on hand as a prerequisite. She couldn't do that. This was the only bargaining chip she had with the organization. The car engine started abruptly. Jessica stepped on the accelerator and ran wildly in the parking lot. But when she was about to reach the exit, she had to stop. The gate of the parking lot was closed. If the car rushed through directly, it would be scrapped. She didn't even think that she could come out unscathed under such an impact. Jessica could only choose to reverse the car. But at this moment, the car couldn't move anymore. The rear-wheel drive car tilted at this moment. Jessica saw King Kong from the rearview mirror in fright. He lifted the rear end of the car with his bare hands. King Kong, who was at the back, let out a sudden roar. His bulging muscles exerted a tremendous amount of strength. He actually flipped the mid-sized sedan over. The sky and earth were spinning. When Jessica felt her body turning upside down, she also felt the roof of the car pressing down on her. Flipping up and down, the thin roof of the heavy car collapsed at once. Jessica climbed out of the car crazily. But her left leg was stuck in the seat. She couldn't get out completely. "I've told you, I've been working here for some time. Do you really think you can escape from me?" King Kong walked to Jessica and sneered. "I'll give you 5 seconds to say your last words." 5 seconds wasn't a long time, but it was enough for Jessica to have a strong thought. Following this strong thought, the young club boss had arrived. Like a ghost, Luaccio appeared behind King Kong. He slowly raised Surma's gun and aimed it at King Kong's back. Just as Luaccio was about to pull the trigger, he suddenly lowered the pistol and turned around to hide behind a pillar. What followed was a deafening sound. Bang! This loud noise came too suddenly. The gate in front of them was changing shape at a terrifying speed. In an instant, a huge object broke through it. Like a giant beast, it was a nanny van that had been completely deformed. The nanny van crashed into King Kong's body and sent him flying. He rolled on the ground and stopped moving after a few rolls. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. At this moment, the door of the nanny van was kicked open and a figure ran out quickly. It was Yi Yin and, of course, Surma, who was in a mess because of the huge impact. Surma shook his head with stars in his eyes. "Bro, can you tell me in advance next time?" Officer Ma seemed to have lost his direction and his footsteps were messy. As for Yi Yin, who rushed out of the nanny van, he had already rushed to Jessica's side and dragged her out of the van. "Yi, why are you?" Jessica looked at him blankly. Yi Yin pressed on the bleeding part of Jessica's leg and said quickly, "I found the tracker you left in the unit you rented. The signal kept pointing here, so I came here immediately." Jessica moved her lips, lowered her head, and said softly, You believed me in the end." "I'm sorry." Ian took a deep breath and said, "I should have found it earlier. You said those words when you gave me the gun in the apartment that day. Actually, you didn't mention what happened 3 years ago. In addition, when you injected me with the drug, you used a product from a few years ago. Now, you don't need to use the latest product at all. Just now, when you were making the transaction, you deliberately made the buyer take such a long time. It seemed very cautious, but I kept feeling that you were stalling for time. You were hoping that I would be able to find you. Even the person who saved me was very likely to be you. You've guessed everything. I'm sorry. The people in the club are monitoring my every move. If I don't catch you..." Jessica smiled bitterly and shook her head. She sighed. "I saved you just to let them feel the danger. A potential enemy will disrupt their plan. So, this transaction was brought forward." Ian frowned. "Why did you do so much? What's your purpose? Or do you intend to seize this batch of goods by yourself and deal with the whole Michael Club by yourself?" Jessica shook her head and lowered her head. She didn't look at Yi Yin, saying faintly, "I'm not as beautiful as you think. I did it for myself. I didn't even expect you to find the clues I left for you at the beginning. I just did it as an insurance measure. If I failed, you might be able to find my dead body and even this batch of goods." "You? Who are you?" "Me?" Jessica looked at Yi Yin, saying sadly, "I'm just..." At this moment, Officer Ma suddenly said hurriedly, "Old Yi, it's not the time for you to talk about love now. Damn, we seem to have met a monster again." It was King Kong who was sent flying by the nanny van that broke through the door. At some point, he had already stood up, and the muscles on his body were starting to move. "Yin, Jessica, King Kong glanced at the three people in front of him. And Officer Ma? Very good. All the hindrances are here. I'll just kill them all at once. Ma howled, said in a low voice, don't make unnecessary struggles. This place will be surrounded soon. You can't run away. And King Kong frowned. And what? Ma howled, directly stretched his hand to his back. And this time I'll shoot your head with the first shot. But when Officer Ma was about to take out his gun habitually, he found nothing. He had given his gun to the undercover young police officer. This was awkward. What do you use to shoot my head? Air? King Kong sneered. Let me shoot your head. He drew his hand from the belt on his back, revealing a very dark pistol. King Kong loaded the gun. I like to shoot when it's one-on-one, but when there are many people, I like to shoot them one by one. King Kong pulled the trigger abruptly, but his finger couldn't pull the trigger fully. The bullet was jammed. The probability of this kind of pistol being jammed was almost zero. King Kong didn't have time to think about why the bullet was jammed at this moment. Just at this moment, a cold light suddenly shot out from Yi Yan's palm, hitting his wrist precisely. The pistol was thrown away from his hand. Yi Yan ran towards King Kong at this moment. His hand slid in front of King Kong's face quickly. He retreated continuously. King Kong glanced at his chest. There was a cut on his shirt, and the skin inside had been slightly cut open. King Kong wiped some blood on his lips, sneering, "It seems that you didn't use your skills last time." Yi Yan sneered, "I have a lot of skills. For example, I'm very good at the maintenance of guns. There won't be any jammed bullets." King Kong narrowed his eyes. He sneered, swinging his palms quickly, then clenching them into fists, putting them in front of himself. His legs were also making quick little hops. He's modified with the secret medicine of the club. His motor skills are not at the level of a normal person. Jessica reminded him quickly. Ian put down his hands, saying indifferently, I've met the same guy. I know how to deal with him. He took a deep breath. His tense body rushed forward at once. Both of them started to fight very quickly. King Kong seemed to be afraid of the sharp knife in Yi Yan's hand, while Yi Yan tried his best to avoid a direct confrontation with him. Old Yi can't beat him. Sima could only be anxious at the side. He knew too well that even with Yi Yan's skills, he could only retreat and fight at the same time in front of King Kong. He was afraid that he would be KO'd if he went up. Sir Ma! Sir Ma! Suddenly, Sir Ma heard a familiar voice. He saw the young police officer running towards him, panting. Sir Ma, I'm sorry. I failed. Officer Ma didn't care whether he succeeded or failed at this moment. Seeing the young man who was sent out as a spy came back safe and sound, he was so happy in his heart. Ma Hao asked directly, Where's my gun? The young police officer took out the hidden gun in a hurry. Ma Hao took it and kissed the gun body hard at once. Ma Hao pointed with one arm, shouting, Yi Yan, kneel down. Hearing the voice, Yi Yan suddenly shivered, and his body instantly bent down. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of 4 bullets shooting out of the gun was particularly loud in this underground parking lot. Sir Ma crazily shot 4 bullets without any deviation, directly hitting King Kong's knees and elbows. Seeing King Kong kneel down in anger and fear, Yi Yan quickly flipped over in front of King Kong and went to his back. The knife in his hand quickly pierced into the end of King Kong's spine, and then he pulled out the knife. Like lightning, he quickly wiped King Kong's ankle. King Kong screamed miserably and was pressed to the ground by Yi Yan, unable to use his strength. King Kong's face was pressed to the ground. He struggled crazily, but he couldn't get out. Sir Ma blew at the muzzle and said excitedly, I told you, I'm the sharpshooter in the station. Yi Yan didn't look at Ma Hao, but reached out his hand and gave him a thumbs up. You're still young. Officer Ma is really great. The young police officer smiled faintly. He smiled sincerely, and there was a warm current flowing in his heart. It was him now, but a few years ago, 10 years ago, when his father was still alive, his father, Ma Hao, and Yi Yan lived such a life.